The man snapped his attention to the appraiser and demanded the verdict, then leaned in, grilling him about the main character's talent. Aldheim Noah was the main character, just 5 years old, the oldest son in his family, and when the appraiser checked him out, they said his only gift was decoding, nothing else, not a single other talent. The Aldeheims are magical aristocrats who have ruled the same bloodline for generations, and from that dynasty, they've forged some of the finest wizards and sorceresses ever seen. Everyone leaned in to hear what Noah, the eldest son, would produce, because it was basically guaranteed he was born for greatness. Aldeheim Hildegand, the head of their family, was stunned by what the appraiser said about his son's gift, and he demanded to know if his kid had 0 attack magic and 0 elemental magic. Then the man snapped his eyes to his eldest son, innocent as a lamb, who blinked and asked what in the world just happened. Then Hildegund shot up to the main character, swung a punch to his face, and snarled that he was a disgrace to their family, leaving the boy utterly stunned. His father snapped, "How dare you stain our name like that?" And Noah tried to plead with a bruised face, but the man slammed him down with silence, then declared, cold as steel, "You're not my son." Then the man yanked the door open and strode out, appraiser's name caught in his throat as he ignored it completely. The second the door slammed shut, the protagonist cracked, tears spilling, muttering apologies to everyone. Time dragged on, then Noah pushed down the hallway. Right at the moment he spotted the maid he'd been looking for. The second she noticed it was him, she turned away like he'd burned her, apologizing through her tears. "I'm so sorry." After that day, everyone kept their distance from him, no exceptions, and he's convinced it's because his father ordered it. He tried to stay diligent for his father's sake, hoping no one would turn on him, but nobody would even talk to him, not a single soul. So he slipped into the library again and again, getting lost in books to drown out the tension. One day, while he was buried in a book, a thought hit him. How on earth could he read something this complex? Maybe it all came down to his own decoding skills. After that, he started showing up in the library nonstop, and every single visit left him pacing the shelves like, which one am I grabbing today? Because he'd already devoured every book in the room. After a while, he slipped outside and sat near the house. Then he spotted a weird slab not far from him, and curiosity hit hard. He crawled closer, only to find strange inscriptions in a language he couldn't understand. Then he stormed back to the library and started scribbling every symbol he'd seen on that page, but the more he stared, the more those marks felt impossible, like he couldn't make sense of a single meaning. Then he hauled himself back to the slab and dug up a fragment of the translation that basically screamed, "Flip it, rearrange what's on the back." So he stared at the backside next, and that's when he spotted new text there, text that still needed to be cracked. A month later, he finally cracked every symbol on the slab. Then he lined up the books on the shelf, exactly the way the writing demanded. The bookshelf snapped aside almost instantly, unveiling a hidden passage into a secret room. Then he saw the staircase and froze in shock, deciding right then to step inside. With every step down the stairs, he spun his head left and right. Then one of the lanterns flared to life all on its own. His pulse jumped as he wondered, is this the glowing magic stone the book was talking about? When he finally hit the end, a door stood right ahead, covered in the same symbols from the slab, and he could already read the message, a hidden library. Then he ripped the door open. As he stepped into the room, massive shelves packed with books towered everywhere, and the wide space hit him like a shock. Then his face flushed red, and a breathy gasp of pure admiration burst from him. He burst into a sprint between the shelves, stunned that this underground maze somehow felt bright, and then it hit him. He hadn't read a single one of these books, all of them ancient and grim, like they'd been waiting for him. Racing the perimeter of the room, he spotted it. Tucked away from everything on the table was a book covered in strange symbols in a matching language, and when he edged closer, his pulse spiked. On the cover, it boldly promised the basics of ancient magic, so he cracked it open, and instantly knew this wasn't just some ordinary book. He dove into it right away, but within seconds he felt the complexity hit. This wasn't a quick read. It looked like he'd be stuck for a long, long time. He figured he still had plenty of time, until his father's words hit him, "You're no longer my son," and rage and tears crashed through him, shaking him to the core. The main character sobbed hard, clinging to the idea that deciphering was a gift his father had just brushed away. A gift for reading symbols like they're nothing is useless in today's world, until you crack it, and then the very way reality is built starts to change. Noah is basically being programmed by symbols, and he has no idea yet, so the truth hasn't even clicked in his head. His father warned him that once he turned 15, he'd be leaving their mansion, and the boy snapped back that he got it all. Then the man pressed on, saying he was the eldest son, but without magical talent, he'd never rise to become the family head. The main character snapped, "Today's my last day in this mansion," slammed a book onto the table, and yanked a cape over his shoulders. After that, he swung around and said goodbye to every service staff member, flashing a grin as he thanked them for everything. Yet they just kept brushing him off, and he couldn't help thinking, by now, he'd gotten used to the cold shoulder. Noah never let that slip. He still made sure to thank his service, over and over. Then he stared at the reason, and the answer hit him fast. He did it purely because he wanted to. He remembered their voices, warm, kind, and ready to help, and he realized the protagonist finally had what any normal person needs. After that, determination snapped into his expression, and he swore he'd act the same way toward someone else, too. Not long after, he burst out of the mansion and onto the street. Then a voice snapped, "Glenn," and Noah greeted him as Glenn announced he'd heard Noah finally got thrown out. Aldheim Glenn was the family's second son, 13 years old, sharp as a blade, and when he leaned in, he told the protagonist one thing: the next head seat was his. Glenn shot his hands up like he'd just won, grinning and claiming that unlike Noah, he can unleash attack magic, especially with a blazing fire element. Every living thing has magic hidden in its bones, but you can't cast a single spell without real talent, and in modern times, only the chosen ones get access to it. No matter how you flip the world upside down, nothing changes for the main character. Noah even straight up said, different moms or not, we're brothers, so yeah, he's going to miss him. Rage flared in Glenn as he snapped that his words would never miss. Then he tore into him as a disgrace to the family, finishing with the brutal line that it was a good thing he was leaving home. Right away, the boy's mind snapped back to his father's words. Someone like him was a disgrace to the family. Then he flashed a smile and asked Glenn, "Why are you grinning like that?" And Glenn answered, "Because I'm thinking the same thing our father did." And his own brother snapped that he's a total idiot, so of course he keeps getting on his nerves, because he can't even use magic. Then he spun toward the flames and demanded the fire blaze as he launched his magic ball. Glenn gripped the blazing fireball in both hands, eyes locked on it with pure grit, then declared, "This is only level 1 of flame." Right after that, the guy hucked the ball straight at the main character. He lit up, thinking his brother's magic was incredible, but then he realized not everything was so perfect, and he let out a heavy breath. Right then, the main character snapped his breeze skill into action, and it tore apart the fireball his brother had just fired. Noah convinced himself he'd already devoured every ancient grimoire hidden in that secret library, and it was all because of his own terrifying gift. It's ancient magic that lets you decode those old symbols, but they're nothing like the modern ones. One symbol can mean a dozen different things, and it can unleash magic so powerful it shakes the world, but cracking the secrets of ancient magic, that's been brutally hard. Day after day, the protagonists kept grinding through that grimoire, and after a brutal 10-year stretch, the ancient symbols finally fused into him, so he could cast magic without ever having to speak the spells aloud. Noah cracks open the grimoires left in their mansion, using ancient magic like he was born for it, and the crazy part, he can even bend modern magic with it. Glenn's eyes went wide, then he burst into furious screams, yelling that this had to be nonsense and that his magic was flawless, but the main character shut him down fast, saying maybe fire magic just isn't safe for a place like this. His brother shot him a shut up, on the spot, and Noah instantly nodded along, agreeing. Then Glenn slammed the truth. Noah couldn't do a lick of magic, so he told him to get out of the house before anyone laid eyes on him again. After that, the boy sprinted toward the house, and Noah's heart sank. He couldn't shake the feeling they'd never really get along, but it killed him to walk away like that, because there was nothing left to do. Now it was time for him to go. Think about it, he spent his whole life buried in books, and now it's time for him to finally see those words come alive with his own eyes. Before he could chase the world, he had to stack up cash. There was literally no shortcut, and he decided the smartest move was to become an adventurer. With that done, he unleashed Skywalk, rocketing himself into the clouds to keep moving. No clue how far this magic will take him, but his next stop is clear: the Guild. High above the clouds, he glanced back at his old home, snapped around to face his father, and poured out his gratitude for everything he'd done. Then he launched into the sky and vanished. Glenn beamed, shoved open his father's office door, and shouted, "Dad," and the man snapped back, "What happened?" The boy burst out happily, saying the main character had finally stormed out of the mansion, but the man didn't smile. He snapped that everything was crystal clear to him. He said there were bigger events ahead, and that in just a few days Princess Claudia, the kingdom of Razday's second princess, would finally arrive, so Glenn should be extra kind to her, and Glenn immediately said, "Got it, I understand." As soon as the boy slipped out of the office, the family's head stormed to the window and laid into his eldest son, telling him, in no uncertain terms, not to hate him. And he made it clear Aldheim didn't need anyone who couldn't do magic, and the moment that happened, a huge wave of relief hit him, because the family's shame finally vanished from the house. Right then, the protagonist burst into the shopping district, stared down at it, and figured he'd just snag one last look before everything changed. Noah strode through the neighborhood streets, soaking in the faces rushing by and the buzzing surroundings, and he couldn't help but grin. Life here was roaring at full volume. His father had only dragged him out once, right to a castle banquet, so he'd barely seen anything beyond the mansion walls. Then, out of nowhere, a shop assistant spotted him and shouted, offering him a sandwich from the shopping district. The protagonist weighed every word in his head, then finally asked, quietly, like he was afraid to hope for a single one, and the seller just grinned and said the deal was simple, 1 silver coin and he'd give him exactly one. Noah leaned in and asked if he could just buy the gold. Then the guy cringed, apologized for snapping at him, and demanded to know if Noah was really rich. Noah just shrugged and said that was it. That was literally all he had. The shopkeeper said he understood everything, then shoved over 99 silver coins in change and a sandwich. Noah grinned, grabbed the goods, and thanked him. Then the cheerful salesman grinned and told him, "I knew it, you're one of Aldiheim's sons who bolted from home." And the main character nodded like it all clicked, his own thoughts screaming that he had to disappear fast. After a while, he decided to hunt down the guild, marched up to one of the carts, and demanded where they were headed, only for the driver to grin and say, "We're going to level up," then hit him with, "So, you really want to tag along?" He weighed every word like it could blow up in his face. This land was in the east. Then he made up his mind and moved, handing the man the coins. Next, he climbed into the cart and couldn't help smiling to himself because he'd always dreamed of riding in it. 3 men were already inside when Noah stepped in, smiled, and apologized for interrupting them. But they shrugged it off like it didn't matter, saying everything was fine, and then the carriage finally rolled on. One of the men pressed him, asking why the main character was in Level Up, and he shot back that he needed the Adventurers Guild to make some money. The young man told him he'd got it all and that everything was finally going great. Then Noah shot back, "It wasn't always like this. People had to start by feeding that dried-out ground with fertilizer." The stranger looked him up and down and said the protagonist was well informed, then leaned in and admitted that the place used to be a wreck, only that was ages ago. "Few people know the city's true past," Edgar said, and then he snapped that everyone else was a traitor, everyone. Another guy offered to tell him about his youth, and Noah, without hesitating, agreed. The main character believed that the first mouth you can't read, so you can't grasp the truth just from books. You've got to study it firsthand to feel what it really means. Noah grinned and figured this cart ride was a win. Then boom, it slammed on the brakes and everyone lurched sideways. The horse reared up and screamed out with a thunderous neigh, and the driver's panic exploded. Edgar snapped, "What's happening?" They all leaned out of the cart and stared straight ahead, because another cart blocked their path, and not a single living soul was inside. Right then, a giant monster erupted into terrifying screams, and Edgar shot back. Was it a demon? Before he insisted it had already smashed through and attacked another carriage. Someone else insisted it was a wind tiger, an A-class monster, but he swore D and E-class creatures should have been here instead, and that twist was totally shocking. Then they spotted 2 people battling the monster, and Edgar snapped, "Yeah, those are the ones fighting it already." He hated it for the folks trapped in that cart, but they had to vanish from there fast. Everyone held their breath, the cart refused to budge, and Edgar snapped out loud that they needed to be let through, because if they started throwing fists, it would just mean more corpses piling up. Just then the main character blurted that he'd helped those people. Then one of the men snapped back, "What are you even talking about? Stop fooling around. You'll throw your life away." Noah thanked them for worrying, but he couldn't do anything else. Then he jumped out of the cart, stunned that anyone had even helped him, because the relief was so intense that words just couldn't reach it. Right then, the main character hit his landing skill and spun toward the men, snapping for them to continue, then thanking them for their wild stories before the carriage finally lurched forward. A few moments later, Noah had already closed the distance to the monster, and with its colossal size, a savage wind ripped through everything in its path, sweeping it all away. The protagonist replayed what he'd read in that book, how the wind tiger crushes opponents in midair, and realized the warning was crystal clear: keep it grounded, or its wild maneuvering will tear everything apart. The armored knight snapped his eyes to Noah, floating right in front of him, and shouted to the monster, "He's here, go after me." In that heartbeat, he knew he had to yank the tiger's attention onto himself first. Wind's tiger always snatches the chance to fight in an air battle, and the moment his trick pays off, he thinks, "Yes, now those people are safe, at least for now." Just then the monster slammed in, while the protagonist spat out a curse. He swore he'd never even pulled off that ancient attack magic in a real fight, yet with no other move left, he had to do it. Right in the middle of his thoughts, that knight crashed into the fray, shouting like he meant to take everything, then he hurled his sword straight at him. Right then the wind tiger snapped its focus to the strike, and the knight cursed under his breath, so the protagonist seized the opening and thrust his hand out in front of him, ready to hit back. After his strike, the wind tiger was ripped to pieces, and the knight and the girl froze in shock. The girl couldn't stop staring, calling that purple fire attack awesome. Noah finally let out a heavy breath and said it was good he'd pulled it off in the end. After that, the guy crumpled onto the ground like his strength had vanished, and the girl whipped around to thank him for saving them. The protagonist shoved himself to his feet, blurted out an apology for the delay, and started to leave, until the girl shot him a determined stare and demanded, "Stop." She blurted that she needed to thank him for saving them, but right then they were rushing to the Aldheim estate, so she turned and asked if he'd ride with them. The protagonist snapped to it. These people were really about to visit his family, and he blurted that he was in a rush, so he couldn't go. The only gratitude he could offer was making sure they stayed safe. Then the girl pushed him to at least tell her his name, and when the guy spun around with a grin, he said, "My name's Noah." The girl's cheeks flared as she clung to the news she just heard. Then she blurted his name like it burned on her tongue. Right then, the knight called out that the horse was safe and it was time to move, and she spun to the man saying, "That's perfect news." Before Noah suddenly shot off into the sky. While the girl kept staring at the strange stripe in the night, the main character was already gone. She spun around, shouted his name, and found nothing but empty darkness. The girl said Mr. Noah looked like an incredible wizard, and as she stared at his face, a familiar feeling hit her, like she'd seen him before. Right then, the main character shot through the air and landed a solid distance away, and when he touched down, he realized, for the first time, someone actually thanked him. And it hit him his gift for deciphering had basically failed him, but somehow he'd still squeezed that talent into something a little more useful, and man, he felt ridiculously proud. After a tense stretch, the girl of the night finally slammed the gate of the estate, and the head of the family immediately thanked them for making the long trip to his residence, while she bowed back, thanking him too for inviting them. Turns out this girl wasn't just any princess. She was the second princess of the kingdom of Raz de Claudia, and at that moment Glenn stared at her like she was pure magic, thinking she was the cutest thing he'd ever seen, and that she was destined to be his. At that moment, the father was already picturing Claudia as his son's bride, because if that marriage happened, the family's power would lock in tighter, so he told the son to not mess it up. Even the family head said he was relieved they'd arrived safe and sound, and the girl snapped back, "Honestly, that's not the whole truth. We got attacked by a wind tiger." Right then the knight cut in and snapped that if the princess hadn't wanted to stay in the castle, none of this would have happened. Then the girl shot back, "I was bored in there, that's literally why." Then it hit her she stopped acting like that, sprinted to apologize to everyone, and even pointed out a wizard passing by. With one swipe of purple flame, he wiped out the tiger instantly. Father couldn't stop thinking about the violet flame, because it's not real in modern magic. He even blurted that he'd never heard of it, even though every top wizard usually knows everyone worth knowing. The girl leaned in and asked if he knew their savior, then praised him for being so polite, dark hair, sharp eyes, the whole package, and yep, the wizard's name was Noah. Once the father heard her description, he scoffed. There was no way it could be true. His son was too stupid to ever cast magic, period. He blurted out that he didn't know anyone like that. Then the girl stepped forward and demanded, "So where's the eldest son of this family?" Claudia added that Mr. Noah was at a reception in Razd Castle, but the man snapped back that no Noah lived in their family. His eldest son was Glenn. Right then, the other guy jumped in and bragged that he was a fire wizard. Then he lit his flame on the spot, but the girl's mood instantly soured, and she snapped that everything was already perfectly clear to her. She bowed to them and declared that the whole marriage of convenience talk would have to be shoved back for now, then promised that once she slipped back into the kingdom's capital, she'd dig deeper into the Aldheim family's business. At that moment, the chief couldn't stand the idea of a rumor ruining the eldest son. If people said he'd been expelled, the family name would be stained. So the knight pleaded with him to forgive the princess for her rude behavior. He told the man, "I'm fine," but inside his head he was already panicking. He had to find his eldest son and bring him back before the princess. Father whipped around, told Glenn he was stepping out for a bit because he had to handle things. Then Glenn, stunned, shot back what was happening, pressing him about that marriage of convenience and the beautiful wife sitting at the center of it. After what felt like forever, the protagonist finally pushed into Wagesti, the city of Level Up, and froze right in front of the Adventurers Guild building, stunned speechless. He burst inside and apologized for bothering them, saying he had to register first. Then, right away, a girl's voice snapped through, asking if anyone could sprint to the volcano in an emergency. She also dropped the bombshell. An S-class monster, Fafnir, has been found there. Now Lady Serena is on the scene, convinced she can tame a raging fire dragon. The adventurers blurted out, "Is this monster the reason the kingdom of Razde is about to fall?" Some were already yelling to hurry and save them, while others shot back, "Yeah, but what good would our help even do?" One guy insisted Serena was the guild's strongest fighter, and the room instantly erupted in arguments. People shouted that wasn't a reason to give up on her, while Serena herself snapped, "It's my fault," blaming it on the fact she was the one who took the task. The main character convinced himself he had it bad, then blurted out that he'd go straight to that volcano and haul Lady Serena back from there. The whole guild froze in disbelief. Then the girl leaned in and asked what rank he had as an adventurer, and he smirked, saying he hadn't registered yet, and the entire room went dead silent. They shut him down immediately, and the truth is, I get why. Our protagonist hadn't proven himself as an adventurer yet, so their distrust hit hard and their rejection sounded exactly like it should. Meanwhile, everyone kept whispering and debating the mess that was going on. Noah could feel everyone's panic radiating from Lady Serena. She was clearly the one person they couldn't afford to lose. If anything happened to her, everyone would fall apart, and when an S-class monster came for them, she'd have to face him solo because he needed to go. The protagonist clenched his fist, convinced the ancient magic had finally hit the Wind Tiger, and if it could do that, he was certain it would crush Fafnir too. Right after that, he slammed his transition skill into place and shot straight for Labalupa Volcano, only to find a tired girl already waiting there. She gripped her sword tight, bracing to strike the second it moved, then her mind spiraled. How in the world did that dragon even get here? Right then, the monster snapped its jaws wide to unleash a scream so loud the air shook, and she realized she might never be able to beat an enemy this terrifying. Just a few moments later, the main character burst right in front of her, then demanded, "Are you Lady Serena?" and shock hit her like a punch. Right then, the dragon snapped its head up and unleashed a burst of flames, but the hero slammed down a barrier at the very last second and sealed the attack away. They were safe and sound, because Fafnir being an S-class monster wasn't luck, it was truth. It could shrug off absolute flames, and when he felt that massive magic surge, he poured power into his spell, but the fire still wasn't strong enough. Serena stared at him and demanded to know who he was and how he ended up there. Then Noah shot back, "My name's Noah, and I'm chasing my dream to become an adventurer." The girl snapped in shock, thinking about how badly he wanted to become an adventurer. Then he boldly said he'd take care of the dragon first. He barreled straight at Fafnir, and she lunged to block him, warning him that even an adventurer couldn't take that monster, yet he didn't so much as hear a word. After that, he slammed into the dragon, sending it skidding away for a ways, but it hardly got any real damage. Then he threw the truth out there: this monster can't be killed either. And yeah, the results were way worse than what the Wind Tiger could do. The girl went pale and blurted, "Wait, are you really a monster?" And Nola snapped, saying it hit him so hard to hear that, then shot back, "Did you really say that?" Fafnir snapped his jaws, called him a human, and demanded to know what kind of magic he'd been hiding, first Serena, now him, because the dragon had just ripped free from the seal. The protagonist stared at the dragon in pure shock, then blurted, "Wait, is it really you talking to me?" Fafnir let out a smug chuckle and admitted it was wild. He never thought anyone would actually dare to talk to him. The protagonist blurted, "I'm as shocked as you are," then begged forgiveness for striking him out of nowhere, only to insist they weren't his enemies, but the dragon didn't buy a word of it. Fafnir leaned in and demanded if the man's words were real, then said they were there to slap a brand new seal on him. The protagonist snapped that everything was wrong, so the girl who struck first came here to wipe out the fire dragon, and he'd already been tailing her. Noah said, voice steady, that he'd promised he wouldn't hurt him again, and the dragon snapped back, asking if he was telling the truth. Just as it was getting heated, Serena shot in, demanding, "Are you seriously telling me you're talking to a dragon right now?" She said she couldn't understand a single word, then snapped, "So is this the language of monsters?" The protagonist realized, too late, that he'd switched over to Fafnir's tongue without even noticing, and when he finally spoke up, he blurted, "We're using an ancient language." What? Noah told Fafnir, "I read in books that other dragon kinds can only talk in the ancient tongue." Fafnir pressed him for more, and then admitted, "Yeah, I was a little too rowdy, that's why they sealed me away for ages." The dragon smiled and said it was perfect the main character had a kind heart and could talk, then leaned in and added proudly, "And yeah, I'm a herbivore." Noah swung back to Serena and said it was all good now. This dragon wasn't some monster at all. Serena went wide-eyed and demanded, all over again, "Are you serious, or are you messing with me?" She said even if he meant no harm, the kingdom of Razday would never let a monster like that roam free, and yeah, the guy totally agreed with her. Then he swung around to the dragon and told it, "If you stay here, others will come to seal you," and right after that, he tossed out a deal, offering it a contract as his minion. Fafnir pressed the question about the minion's contract again, then made it crystal clear, This deal was going to be between him and a human. The dragon clocked that this contract meant serious protection, and right after that, he leaned in and demanded the protagonist sign it. Fafnir demanded an advanced lunar magic to turn him into a minion, then shot the question, "Is it dangerous?" And the protagonist answered, "Nothing to worry about," right before a massive seal slammed into the ground. A surge of raw energy ripped through her, blazing like lightning. Serena's eyes went wide as the girl blurted, "What is happening?" Moments later, once the smoke finally thinned out, she blurted, "What did you do?" And the protagonist smirked as he said, "I made a minion contract with the dragon." The boy told the girl she could talk to him now too, and she gasped in total shock. "What do you mean?" Right then, Fafnir leaned in and said it was just incredible. His towering presence shrank down to nothing, and when he said the contract had been sealed way too easily, he leaned in and warned Noah, still a monster. Serena leaned in and asked if that tiny dragon was Fafnir. Then the boy snapped back that a minion contract shrank him down to this size. He spun to the dragon and named himself, and right after, everyone else started introducing themselves too. The hero leaned in and swore the dragon had changed so completely that nobody in the city would even recognize Fafnir anymore. Then Fafnir shot back that soon, the people would finally quit sealing him. The girl gasped, stunned, and blurted out that he was really talking. Noah grinned and said it was awesome, he really had friends. Fafnir cracked up, calling the henchman a friend and insisting he was clearly a hilarious guy, while the girl just stood there, not buying any of it. After a while, they all burst back into the guild, and the girl administrator couldn't stop smiling. She told her how relieved she was that the lady was still alive, then she bowed and apologized for everything that went wrong on her behalf. The lady simply reassured her, "It's all okay, everything ended well." Right now, the main character hovered behind the crowd, a dragon perched on his shoulder, scanning every face with sharp focus as a sweet, knowing smile spread across his lips. A few moments later, Noah and Serena burst outside, and Serena told him she'd reported to the guild that she hadn't run into any dragon. Noah nodded, said that was perfect, and thanked her right away. She shot him a question: where was he planning to spend the night? The protagonist shrugged and admitted he hadn't picked a place yet, and with his money running low, he figured he might just sleep under the open sky. Serena replayed his words in her head, then she finally swallowed her nerves and asked if he'd mind coming to her place, only for the guy to question her about it again. The moment he said it, she shot red, panicked, and insisted it wasn't what he thought. She only wanted to thank him for helping her, and she even had a spare room at home. The protagonist pressed her for certainty, and she flashed a confident nod, promising she was in it for real and that she'd treat him to food because she's a seriously good cook. After a while, they finally landed at Serena's place, while the protagonist dug into her cooking, praising how delicious it was, and even Fafnir chimed in, backing him up word for word. The girl told them to drop their shyness and dig in, eat as much as they wanted. Then she even added extra for herself, and the guy nodded, saying he understood everything, before thanking her. Serena spun back to the stove and blurted that he still totally stunned her. First, he popped up in front of her like he'd vanished from thin air, then he blew that dragon away. Noah shot back that he'd tap into ancient magic. Then the girl burst out laughing, saying she knew nothing about it, and Noah admitted it hurt. Serena leaned in and asked if he truly wanted to chase the life of an adventurer, then told him to hit the guild tomorrow morning and sign up. She'd lay it all out for him since she was the eldest. The protagonist thanked her and called her Lady Serena, but she waved it off and told him to just use her name, no titles, no honors. The very next day, the two of them showed up at the guild, and the protagonist was thrust a form, told to fill every required field first, and he just nodded and agreed. And the girl administrator stepped up and grilled him. Was this tiny dragon truly his assistant? Fafnir sat there, dead quiet on his shoulder, and right then the protagonist snapped back, smiled, turned to him, and pressed the collar into his hands. He said it was a collar stamped with a minion contract, so folks in the city wouldn't take one look and think he was some wild monster. The dragon bragged that everything was perfect, then, collar already locked around his neck, thanked him like it was a done deal, and Serena smiled, saying it fit him perfectly. The protagonist also leaned in and whispered that he'd carved a rune of ductility into it, so it wouldn't snap when Fafnir finally came back to its original form. Then, after what felt like forever, the administrator returned and hurriedly apologized for the delay. The girl jabbed a finger at the door and told him, "Now you're going into this room for your talent assessment." The dragon leaned in and demanded what was wrong, because his magic power had suddenly turned scrambled. He shot back that the talent assessment had left him with awful memories, but since they had nothing else to do, they still had to march there. The main character burst into the room and locked eyes with a man wearing glasses. He claimed he was an appraiser named Carl, then introduced himself again and wasted zero time getting straight to business. A flickering light flared on the table before him, and Noah's eyes locked onto every move, while Carl pressed him, asking straight up if decoding was truly his gift. The man blurted that he was stunned, because he'd been born with a super rare gift, and the protagonist froze in shock, then pushed him to explain it again. Carl told him 10 years working here, and you're the first person with real talent to decode things, but you're not cut out for adventuring, so I'm going to find you another job. The main character thanked him and told him he didn't need it, and the man warned that an adventurer's life is packed with danger, so he'd better stay sharp and be careful. After a while, they slipped out of the room, and Noah practically exhaled with relief. He was terrified his gift would be labeled talentless, but it didn't happen. He told Carl, "You're a good man," and the dragon leaned in and declared, loud and clear, that Noah's talent couldn't be ignored. After that, he and Serena headed straight for the task board, and she told him, "Since you're an F rank, start by picking up requests." He nodded hard like, "Got it, everything." They picked a quest and decided they'd have to march straight to the eastern forest to snatch 10 medicinal herbs, all while fighting at a recommended F rank, and if they pull it off, they pocket 4 silver coins. Fafnir demanded to know how much food the reward could grab, and the protagonist shot back 4 sandwiches. Serena then leaned in and said, "That's the starting line for everyone, go straight to the eastern forest." After what felt like forever, they finally reached the exact spot. Then the dragon snapped that finding a single plant in a monster-sized forest would take real grit. The main character grinned and told him it wouldn't take long, then he fired off his material detection skill. He said this spell lets him pinpoint the location of any material in an instant, and the dragon snapped that he was at it again, doing something no one could even imagine. The protagonist snapped back that the real madness wasn't him, it was the ancient magic's creator, who pushed past anything anyone could even imagine. Fanfare chimed in that Noah was strange too, because he could wield it, and right then, they spotted the herb. They sprinted back to the guild, and Serena Plus, the administrator, stared in disbelief when he hauled in a whole basket of medicinal herbs. He told her he'd gathered medicinal herbs too, plus a bunch of other stuff he'd found useful along the way, and when Serena heard it, she shrugged like, somehow, it didn't surprise her at all. Then they rushed off with the herbs to appraiser Carl, and he stared in shock, basically unable to believe how much they'd gathered, and how fast they'd done it. He gripped a magnifying glass and leaned in to inspect the plant, declaring that even rare panacea and magic herbs were thriving in perfect condition. Carl said the protagonist nailed the first quest, and the protagonist immediately thanked him for the praise. He admitted he never in a million years thought someone with the gift to decipher could pull off a result like this, because even the evaluator's own eyes were totally blind. The protagonist admitted he was still a total newbie, and Carl joked that most fresh adventurers only hunt medicinal herbs for half a day. Then he leaned in and demanded whether the kid had picked his next quest yet. Noah shot him down, but the man leaned in and promised one quest he wanted to entrust to him. Then Noah immediately nodded, ready to say yes. The protagonist stared at a scrap of paper that ordered him to sprint into the eastern forest and snag 1 magic flower, rank B required, and the payout was a fat 5 platinum coins. Carl blurted that magic flowers are the secret ingredient for the elixir of life, and Noah shot back, "So you're really the one who, rumor says, cures every disease," and the man nodded, confirming it. The protagonist started to doubt himself because the rank was way too high. Then he said he only knew he could manage up to E rank, and Carl immediately snapped back that he shouldn't worry at all, because even if he failed, Carl would cover the compensation. The man told them his daughter was being tortured by some unknown illness, and you could practically feel the panic pouring off him. He said he'd dragged every doctor he could find into this battle, but none of them could fix her, so the only shot left was the elixir of life, and that power was the cure. The man swore he'd already tracked down the panacea he needed, holy water and mermaid tears. Every search for the magic flower blew up in failure, because it used to be a rare plant that showed up a few times each year, but in the last couple of years, not a single person has even laid eyes on one. And now Mr. Noah has proved what he can do, so maybe it's him who'll finally uncover it. Carl snapped that he was the customer for this quest, begging the main character not to turn him away. Then the main character nodded, saying he got everything, and agreed to jump into the search. He poured out his thanks from the bottom of his heart. Right then, the dragon leaned in and asked, "Why not cure that disease with ancient magic?" She told everyone, these illnesses aren't magic at all, they're medicine, and somehow even so, she's managing to keep her footing. The guy spun toward Carl and said he'd first want to check on his daughter, and Carl answered that once his workday was over, they'd head to his place, right as the guild doors burst open. A total stranger rushed up to Carl, shaking with panic, and blurted that something terrible had happened. Lady Carla was in danger. After a while, they finally reached Carl's place. Carl called his wife by name, Sarah, and she recoiled in shock. They rushed to their daughter's bed, and the man immediately demanded what was wrong. Sarah broke the news. Carla had collapsed out of nowhere and still hadn't woken up. Then the doctor pressed for answers, because her body was perfectly fine, so what on earth could be causing it? Right then the main character stared at the girl, and then it hit him. Everything suddenly clicked, and he blurted, "Let me talk to you." Right then the doctor snapped, "What are you doing? We've got an emergency. Stop distracting me." The main character ignored him, and he snapped that this girl had a syndrome that hardens her magical meridians. This sickness wrecks the pathways that magical energy needs to flow, and when it hits, everyone goes completely silent, pure shock. The protagonist told her it's always moving through living bodies, no matter if they can use it or not. Then he thrust out his hands and unleashed the skill on the girl. He told them, "Right now, only a tiny spark of energy is coursing through our daughter's body, and this illness isn't medical at all, it's magic." Then he shrugged because nobody knows what's causing it. Carl grilled him, "Can you cure her?" And the protagonist snapped back that right now, he was burning his energy to temporarily quiet the symptoms, but the elixir's power was still the one thing she needed to truly heal. Noah blurted that he had to sprint into the forest to find the magic flower, and Serena warned that night was creeping in and it was too dangerous to go alone, so she grabbed her courage and went with him. Carl admitted he had zero magical search tools, and the protagonist fired the question right back at him. Then the girl leaned in and explained that for high-complexity quests, you can take magical search tools along. She said nobody knew how long it would take to get the manager's approval, and Noah snapped that they couldn't afford to wait. He didn't need any tools. They were going to track down the magic flower. Right then, Carl dropped his head and thanked him, then Lady Serena too, while Sarah leaned in and told them straight up to be careful. After that, the main character and the girl burst outside, and he pulled out the spatial transition, like a jump straight into the forest, and told her, "Hold on even tighter." She nodded, and in the blink of an eye, they were gone. To hunt the magic flower, you've got to sprint through the forest with the material detector blazing, and he straight up asked if she'd run with him, and she agreed without hesitation. Then the two of them sprinted straight through the forest, chasing the trail of a magic flower that, just like its name says, was meant to bloom in a magic place. The dragon swore this place has been crawling with fairies for centuries, but then he paused, confused, because not a single one is around anymore. Serena guessed they might have moved somewhere else, but the dragon snapped back that wasn't possible. Fairies loved their solitude, and they would never leave their warm, cozy forest. Fafnir said, "Think about it, flowers don't just grow by accident. Fairies do it, and lately they've stopped blooming, so something must have kidnapped the fairies." At that exact moment, the girl blurted, "I feel something," and the dragon shot back, "You've got incredible sensitivity." After that, the entire company went stone still. Then the dragon ripped off the main character's shoulder, and the girl pulled her sword free, warning that the enemy was closing in fast. Right then, a monstrous piranha-headed fiend lunged out of the side, trident raised, and the girl snapped her sword up to block his strike at once. Serena surged in and cut the monster's torso clean in half, its upper half blasted away, then she spun straight toward Fafnir. The dragon promised, "I'll fix this right now," then unleashed blazing fire on the monster, while the protagonist stared in stunned awe at how perfectly they moved together. He told them they were amazing, like their teamwork was perfectly in sync, then he didn't even notice a monster was creeping right there in the shadows. Serena let out a heavy sigh and admitted that Noah really was an adventurer, green as they come, and Fafnir nodded along, saying the truth was simple: skills don't equal real battle experience. Serena leaned in and asked how the flower hunt was going, and the protagonist admitted with a shaky voice that the results felt painfully weak. After a while, they finally stumbled on a pond, and the girl blurted, "Wait, is this actually a lake?" Noah shot his hand toward the water. The main character said the magic flower's power rises from the very bottom of this lake, and the girl, frozen in shock, demanded, "Is that really true?" She pushed, "Why would it grow here?" And he shot back, "Because magical flowers aren't aquatic plants." Then it hit him, magic energy had to be pooling right there. Serena admitted they had no choice. Swimming wasn't her thing at all, but what else could she possibly do? The main character told her, "I'll check it myself," then launched into the sky, right as the girl scrambled to stop him. Then Noah fired off air cover. Whoosh, their bodies and the dragon got shoved straight into a barrier. Then he and his assistant dropped into the water with a loud plop. Watching it all, the girl nodded and said everything was crystal clear. This guy was right on schedule, and the last one was already sinking at the bottom of the lake. Moments later, he stood face to face with a mysterious object, and the dragon demanded, "What is that?" So the protagonist shot back, "It's a spatial rift, an ancient kind of magic." He basically said it's the kind of power that lets you zip straight to wherever it points, and then zip right back. Fafnir said he could barely feel the fairy's magic in the air, and the protagonist replied that the magic flower's power was coming from him too. The dragon snapped that only fairies couldn't pull off this kind of magic, and the look on its face said it all. They didn't wander off by themselves. Someone snatched them away. The protagonist stared straight ahead, dead determined. Then he reached out toward the gap, and it scampered in the direction of his touch. Noah noticed a barrier up ahead, and his confusion spiked. Then the dragon growled that he'd shatter it to pieces. Then Fafnir veered aside in midair and blasted with fire, but the protagonist snapped, "I didn't make it." And the dragon grinned back, "It's all about the water because we're here." Noah begged for a single minute, swearing he'd handle it himself. Then the guy faced him squarely, and pure magical energy erupted across his palms. He told himself he'd nailed the barrier. Then seconds later, the thing shattered in his hands anyway. The dragon snapped his name like a command and promised him a surprise shot at real combat training, then demanded he figure out exactly where the monster was hiding right now. He paused for a breath, focused hard, and then snapped, "Now I get it," because the monster was definitely right behind him. As they spun around together, shock hit them both at once. Right there, towering in front of them, was a massive sea serpent. The snake stretched out like an endless ribbon, and the protagonist demanded answers. Why was it slithering in a freshwater lake when its home is the sea? Right then, the monster bragged that he'd slept like a dream, all warm and peaceful, then leaned in and demanded what the man had left behind under the water at night. The protagonist clocked it. This snake didn't just slither, it talked like a full-on monster. He blurted that he'd run into another talking freak, and the snake warned him that if he didn't take care of the intruder, the spirit of darkness would be furious. Noah stared into the spirit of darkness, then demanded, "Who are you?" And the monster snapped back that it didn't even know, only that Noah must not anger him, because the next second he burst out of nowhere and yanked Noah straight out of the sea. So the main character thanked him for opening up, and the monster froze, then blurted out, shocked, "Can a person really talk to me?" Nella said, "You could, before this is what deciphering does." The protagonist stared the monster down, then told Tom he was trying to dodge needless trouble, so could he please just let him pass. The snake snapped, asking if Fafnir was really trying to let him pass, but he still swatted it away and growled that he'd rather eat him right here. So Fafnir admitted, like it was obvious, that he clearly had a bloodthirsty streak, not unlike him. Then the protagonist snapped into the skywalk skill, shot upward into the air, and slipped clean out of the snake's deadly strangling grip. At that moment, the dragon lunged off his shoulder, shoved him toward the search for the flower, and promised it would handle this enemy itself. The main character tried to argue, and Fafnir cut him off, asking if he wanted to save the girl, and warning that if he did, he'd better hurry, because her body wouldn't hold out much longer. After that, the guy shot him a grateful nod, and then carved out a whole new barrier around the dragon, letting it breathe easy underwater. The protagonist snapped that Fafnir was already wrapped in the air shroud. Then Fafnir told him to trust in his lead, and they split off fast. Right then, the serpent snapped its jaws wide and swore Noah would never slip past, because it was ready to gobble him up, until the dragon blasted fire into the sky and ordered it to back off. He told everyone, "I'm leaving the rest to the dragon," and that only meant one thing: the magic flower is hiding behind that spatial gap. The guy admitted he had no clue where all this would lead, but one thing was certain: he was going to grab the magic flower. Then he launched straight into that gap. After a few wild seconds, he started spinning through the air as strange patterns whipped around him. Then, in the blink of an eye, he slammed down on the ground. He pushed himself to his feet, scanned the area, and demanded, "Is it really around here?" And the sun blazed overhead like it had nothing to hide. He stared up at the sky and broke into disbelief, daylight. Then he snapped, thinking maybe he'd been teleported so far that the time zone flipped on the spot. After that, the main character realized something was off. The space itself was stitched into existence with magic. Then, right near him, he heard someone sobbing. The stranger sobbed with a broken voice and shouted that they'd all been captured. Then you could see the scrapes all over her body as huge tears spilled down her face. She admitted she had no idea what to do, and the protagonist glanced at her like, "Wait, you're hurt." Then he snapped his healing skill onto her, and the girl froze in shock. He rushed in an apology for scaring her, and explained it was only healing magic he was using. The stranger's cheeks flared red as she blurted out how grateful she was to him. Then he stepped in and said, "My name's Noah, I'm a budding adventurer." Turns out she was a fairy. He blurted, "Are you really one?" And she nodded, smiling, then flipped the question back, "So what, are you really human?" He shot her a confident yes, then dropped onto a stump and basically said, "My talent is figuring things out, decoding them." The fairy admitted she finally got how he could talk to her, even though he was human. Then the guy said he thought that was exactly the point, and she leaned in to tell him that, at first, the fairies lived deep in the forest of Lebelup. Then this evil spirit of darkness swooped in, seized them instantly, and locked them inside the space. No matter how they fought to escape, nothing worked. Everyone but her was trapped in prison right under that massive tree, and Noah pushed for answers, why the spirit of darkness grabbed them, what it planned to do, and what it even wanted, only for the fairy to shrug and say she didn't know. Then she turned the tables and asked Noah why he was here at all. He said he had to find a magic flower to save the sick girl, and the fairy shot back that magic flowers really did grow right here. She plopped right on his head, wore a deadly serious face, and told him things were messed up. Then they headed to the tree and found a cage for fairies hanging there. The main character stared at the picture and snapped that it was awful. Then he bolted toward the place to rescue them, but the fairy slammed the brakes on him, warning that if he went any farther, something would come for him. Right after that, a golem slammed into view as their guard, while the fairy warned them that it stands watch here because the spirit of darkness isn't around. The main character swore it felt like he had to rescue the fairies and gather the magic flowers, but before any of that, he'd have to beat the one standing in his way. Noah leaned in and told her, "Don't be scared, I'll free your friends for sure," and right then she fixed her gaze on him, hanging on every word. The protagonist urged her to find someplace safe for now, and she stammered before nodding, then hurriedly thanked him and begged him to stay careful. Then the guy snapped his gaze to his enemy and figured the only way he could win was by rewriting the ancient symbols etched into his chest. Still, he had to smash him first and pin him in place. Right as he was plotting how to take the enemy down, they surged in and attacked, trampling the magic flower underfoot. Right after that, the golem lunged to smash him, so he swung back, but the main character snapped his skill and flicked his sword up into the air. He smirked to himself. Of course, this wasn't luck. He'd stitched the ancient protection symbol onto his robe for a reason. The golem's attack power wasn't kid stuff either. It hit like a high-level threat, and there was no way he could afford to take another one. Then the main character snapped into his trajectory change skill and swooped around his enemy in a tight triangle, flying rings around him. He hammered magic seals into every corner, then snapped into position behind one and unleashed his absolute flame skill. Purple energy ripped into the world like a weapon. After a few seconds, the effects vanished, and he stared in shock as the golem stood there like nothing ever happened. Did the absolute flame miss its mark? Right after that, he fired off his magic shot, pure power meant to slam the enemy with real damage, while a fairy lurked behind a nearby tree, watching his move. When the smoke finally cleared, the golem snapped back into action and slammed an arm toward the protagonist, but right away, he knew this was a bad sign. The boy couldn't dodge, so when the enemy's fist slammed into him, he blasted backward through the air, landing far away, then it hit him. This golem was forged from mithril. He slammed his body straight into a massive boulder, and tiny cracks spidered out around the impact. Then his mind latched onto the thought that mithril is an ore that shrugs off magic. That spell can still bite through it, but even the ancients can't break this, so they forged it with top-tier mithril, and this giant won't be stopped by magic. Then the golem surged right back on top of him, swinging its arm again to smash him down. Noah felt like the world was collapsing, so he slammed into spatial transference. Then his power sputtered, and the monster's fist was already ripping toward his head. At that instant, the punch blasted his whole body apart, and the poor guy screamed in agony as he got launched flying way back. The protagonist lay on the ground, battered and ragged, torn clothes, bruises and scraped skin everywhere, staring down at the golem as a single thought burned in his head: how to win. He wondered how to wipe the symbols off his chest without turning into a mobile, but then he shut that idea down. There was a solid barrier blocking it. The protagonist realized there was no way out unless he crushed the golem, because he couldn't rescue the fairies or get the magic flower to Carl. He figured, if I've got real fighting talent, I'll find a way to beat them without magic, but all he's got is decryption skills and ancient spells. After that, Noah shot to his feet and thought, fine, if they won't help with the Skalem, then I've got one move left. I have to defeat it. On shaking legs, the protagonist scraped together enough strength to stamp a magic seal. Then he unleashed his absolute flame skill, forging several more seals as the flames surged. He swore he'd rewrite the formula to crank the ancient magic to its limit, throwing every ounce of himself into it, until the blast finally tore straight through his magical defenses. The protagonist believed he had to crack the ancient symbols in ways no one ever had, then pour magic into each one deeper than ever before. Noah shot his hand forward, desperation ripping across his face, and he realized he'd have to dive straight into the abyss itself. He'd hustle right back to Carl with that magic flower. No way was he getting wiped out in a place like this, because the guy was absolutely relentless. When he finally unleashed his power, the space in her eyes seemed to stretch wider, and a tiny flame suddenly snapped from her hand. He had no clue what was happening. Noah's head spun like crazy, the world blurred and swam before his eyes, and dread hit him. His magic was completely gone, so the next thing he knew, he started to tumble backward. At that very moment, the golem roared, then surged forward, looming over the main character with his entire body. The last one crumpled to the ground, blood pouring from his nose, too weak to lift a finger, while the fairy stared in shock, and the guy's mind spiraled as he felt everything turn hopeless, his consciousness slipping away. Suddenly, paper crackled in the air, and his mind raced, like someone was turning pages right in front of him. When the main character forced his eyes open, he found a massive book floating right in front of him, and as he blinked, it seemed to hang there in the air while he demanded where he was and where the guard column had gone. Then he snapped his eyes back to the book and realized the writing was ancient and mind-bending, like it was carved for legends, until he finally read about composite materials and mithril. Thanks to a mountain of formulas, the magical protection got pushed to its absolute limit. Then there was the whole twist about the caster, and the spirit of darkness lurking right behind it. The protagonist snapped back to his senses, stared at the book like it was screaming answers, and rushed to figure out why it was loaded with secrets about that golem. Then he started flipping pages at full speed, soaking up every detail he could. He also felt it. She was blasting out insane magical power, like an ancient spell made flesh, and it looked like energy was swirling around her from head to toe. Then he shot his index and middle fingers into the air, and magic burst to life around them. So if this power was real, he figured, why not rewrite its formulas himself? Then he traced the same fingers across the book's pages, soaking up how mithril could be twisted from anti-magic into something that lets magic pass through, and right as he read, a foggy haze crept over his eyes. Right after he read the details, the book snapped shut out of nowhere. He didn't see it coming. On the cover, its name sat there plain as day, the Book of Peace ****. After a while, a voice finally cut through his fog and shouted his name, and it was a fairy, tugging at his clothes with those tiny hands, begging him to wake up because she was struggling with every second. The moment he blinked, he demanded to know what was happening, his mind still half drowned in unconsciousness. Then the fairy blurted his name like she'd been panicking the whole time, and right after that he finally snapped awake, asking if he really had passed out. When he turned his gaze ahead, the golem was roaring again, loud enough to rattle the air, and the fairy snapped a curse, saying this was the worst thing that could happen as she yanked Noah along on her back. After a while, they shot up and vanished into the distance, and the girl grinned, now he can't reach us. The main character nodded, saying she'd pulled him out of that monster while he was out cold. He grinned at her, thanked her, and insisted everything was fine now, but as he stepped back, the girl crumpled with exhaustion, eyes flooded, and started screaming at him not to go. The protagonist figured he still had a sliver of magic left, and even the mightiest absolute flame couldn't touch him. You could practically see the power-charged thoughts sparking inside his head. The fairy kept snapping at him that Mr. Noah needed to wake up and that they had to run, but the stubborn guy wouldn't budge, because he'd already decided everything for himself. The protagonist stood over the golem and stared it down, then his thoughts spiraled. Was what he'd just seen in that book truly a dream, or was the whole book of the world just one giant, waking fantasy? The boy swore he'd never read or heard of anything like this. Then, right there, he whipped out his air cover skill like he did on the fairy, and she was left staring in shock at what he just did. The girl shot him a question about what it was, but the main character just wouldn't say a word. His mind was already racing, wondering if her power could really make his magic work on the golem. He shut his eyes and blurted, "No way, I can't do this." There was no way he could believe you, rewrite the world's foundation that easily. Then he thrust his hand forward and stared into the void, clinging to one desperate wish, the Book of Peace, and he prayed that everything would be okay, even if his magic resistance got knocked down just a little. After he finished his words, he lunged forward and drove a punch straight into the golem's chest, watching it like a hawk, convinced that all he needed was to scratch that ancient symbol right there. Everything shattered the way he never saw coming. Right in front of him, the monster split apart, and with one swing, his blow tore a massive hole straight through the center of its chest, leaving the guy completely stunned. The fairy, watching everything, burst into a huge grin and said it was unbelievable, and the main character couldn't even blink, because the changes in the book were suddenly coming to life in the real world. Then he dropped to one knee, eyes locked on the guardian golem's total collapse, and stared at the enemy's wreckage like, so much precious mithril was right here. The main character stared at that kind of power and wondered where it really came from in the book of the world. Then he snapped, "Not now, not the time to dwell on it." For now, he shoved every last piece of the golem into his inventory, then raised his hand, and the moment that skill kicked in, he pulled the remains straight into storage. With a fierce, determined look, the protagonist blurted, "I finally got it," then snapped his eyes to the cage holding the fairies. Moments later, he lunged in and carefully hauled her down from the tree, then tore her apart with his bare hands so the fairies could burst free and fly. But the fairies stared at him with pure distrust because he was a total stranger to them. Once the fairies vanished from the cage, a girl shot into the air and told them how relieved she was that they were all safe. Then their faces lit up as they grinned at each other, cheering like they'd finally been rescued for real. Then the girl whipped around to face the main character, tears blazing in her eyes. She called his name and poured out, with all her heart, how grateful she was. One of the fairies leaned in and asked, "So he's really a man?" And the girl snapped back, "Don't be scared. Mr. Noah is the real deal, and he's got nothing but goodness." Right then, the main character stared at the tree trunk, and right beside it, a huge new spatial gap tore open, like reality had split. He stared hard at everything, and suddenly he knew it was his chance to get out. Only trouble was his whole face and clothes were caked in dirt. He snapped back to his original goal and knew the only thing left was to gather the magic flowers. Then he crumpled to the ground and tore into the search. His face went stone-focused as he scanned every blade of grass for his target, and even the fairies leaned in, watching his every move. He spun toward the flowers and then froze because the one he reached for was smashed. Curses burst out of him, and he started hunting for another bloom, only to find every single flower shattered. Clutching one of the flowers in his hand, he stared into the mess they made in that golem fight and muttered that it went on way too long. Now he knew for sure he'd never be able to craft the elixir. Despair crashed across the protagonist's face as he stared at the flowers, one by one, only to find every single bloom smashed, not a single one left whole. He blurted that without the flower he couldn't save Carla, then snapped, "So why the hell did I even come to this space in the first place?" And the next second he crumpled to his knees, helpless, palms flat against the ground. The fairy everyone knew wore sadness in her eyes as she called his name, while the other fairies gathered around and stared at what was unfolding in the clearing. After a while, night slammed into place, the sky glittered with stars, and the severed head of the snake lay cold on the ground. Serena stood close with a sword gripped tight in her hands, while Fafnir lurked beside them, groaning that this monster soaked his nerves in sweat. Yet Serena shot back that the snake felt suspiciously, brutally strong. She figured that this spirit of darkness was pumping him full of its magic, and now she's just praying the protagonist is still alive and okay out there. The dragon insisted that the moment he shoved through the spatial rift, it vanished instantly, so now he can't even track them anymore. Among monsters, there are some magic just can't touch, and Fafnir suddenly feared letting him go alone was a huge mistake. Rage bubbled up as he realized what a lousy familiar he'd become. Right then, the main character burst in behind the girl, alive and breathing, yanked the tension tight with an apology, saying he'd been late, and Serena's body jolted with shock and dread. She quizzed the guy about how he was holding up and whether he was safe, and he admitted it, just a little scrape, nothing major, and Fafnir swore she knew he'd come back safe. The main character said he slipped out through that weird spatial gap, and Serena stared at him for a beat, then burst into a chuckle and told him she finally got the whole thing. Then her face snapped into something more wary. She pressed him, asking if he'd managed to collect the magic flowers. He lowered his head and his face crumpled with sadness. Then he apologized, swearing he just couldn't get them. Serena snapped at him right away. "What do you mean?" And the guy just brushed it off, saying everything was fine, but Serena clearly didn't buy it. Then Noah whipped around to the dragon, begged it to take them to label up on himself, and apologized as he asked. The dragon gave a clear yes, saying it wouldn't trouble him at all, so Noah shot back his thanks and admitted, "I'm out of magic now, I can't do the spatial transition." After he said those words, he leapt onto Fafnir's back with Lady Serena, and all of them rocketed into the sky together, while the girl scanned the world in panic, scared out of her wits, clinging to the guy like her life depended on it so she wouldn't fall. At that moment, the dragon whipped around to the main character and demanded, "Are you really okay with losing the magic flower, after this whole journey was built to get it?" The main character grinned and told the everyone, "I'm fine," then whirled on the mysterious man. "You can go," he said, "because the dragon's friendly, so there's nothing to fear." Then the boy leaned in and asked, "Can I ask you a favor?" And Fafnir snapped, "Who are you talking to, and what weird language is that you're spouting?" Later in Carl's family home, the man stood beside his wife and the doctor at their daughter's bedside, while she lay there, unblinking and still knocked out, his wife gripping her hand like she refused to let go. Her father looked her dead in the eye, calling her Carla, and told her to hang on a little longer, while her mother, panicked, shouted her name too. The girl lay burning up with a fever, sweat pouring down her face. Carl swore everything would be okay. Mr. Noah would come back for sure with that magic flower, and right then, the girl snapped her eyes open and shouted for her dad. It was crystal clear she was running on fumes, yet she still mustered a faint smile and told them, "Come on, look in here, there's a fairy in the room." Carl grabbed his daughter's attention and demanded to know what she was saying, because her words clearly terrified him. He told her to hang on tight, insisting that everything would flip soon. Right then the girl's mother snapped her head up, desperate to catch what her daughter was saying, because the moment she heard it, surprise hit her like a punch. She spun toward her husband, visibly rattled by everything unfolding, and he shot back, "What happened?" Then the man jolted his head up too, and for a split second, he was totally stunned by what he saw. Right above them, practically glued to the ceiling, hung a tiny fairy in midair, wings fluttering, dressed in some weird little costume. The girl called Carla out by name, then grinned and asked, like it couldn't be true, "So that's really what you're called?" A tiny fairy drops onto the bed, and the girl's parents stare in shock, because that little creature's clear wings are right there, shimmering in front of them. Carla stares at the fairy, and when she smiles back, it's like everything just lights up. She tells the girl, "Miracles are here," then makes her promise she won't forget to thank Mr. Noah. The fairy whips around to Carla's parents and swears that everything will be okay from here on out, while the girl's father is still in disbelief, convinced he must be dreaming. Under the glow of the night, a swarm of fairies darts through the city in gorgeous dresses, with flower bracelets flashing on their ankles. The night sky glows as warm light spills from every house window, and the summer fairies flit around, chattering and laughing like pure magic. Carlo's father peers out the window and spots hundreds of glowing lights streaking across the sky, like tiny fireflies, and the fairies shoot straight toward Noah and his companion. On Noah's shoulder, Fafnir the dragon leans in and points out that magical flowers bloom exactly where fairies make their home. Noah can't believe his eyes. Fairies just showed up in the middle of a crowded city, and he instantly thinks it's those magical flowers calling them in. The young man believes he freed the fairies stuck in a slice of space, and now they're repaying the favor by backing him up. The dragon stares up at the fairies soaring through the sky, grins at Noah's gift for cracking other languages, and declares that every true hero faces no racial barriers. Noah figures it's exactly what he should have expected from the guy who made a minion contract with him, then turns to Fafnir and goes, "What are you mumbling about?" And with that, he declares it's finally time to start brewing the elixir. The table is suddenly lined with ingredients, and right beside them, the elixir hums in a glass flask. Carla Chan, who'd been crushed by magic meridian hardening syndrome, finally got cured, and the moment it happened, her parents swept her into a tight, joyful embrace. The girl bursts into joyful laughter, and the heroes grin hard, proud of what they just pulled off. The girl's father swings his gaze to Nella, stunned and overwhelmed, and he has no idea how to thank him, so he bows low, head down, and keeps thanking the young man again and again, each time more sincere than the last. Noah snaps at him not to bow his head, and the hero breathes a huge sigh of relief, knowing Carla is okay now. Her father leans in and tells his daughter, "Noah healed you, he broke your illness's grip," and when she thanks him, Noah's smile lights up the whole moment. The family head snaps his attention to his wife, and to Carla. Noah can't stop replaying it. His mom died right after he was born, and his dad never loved him, so yeah, he's seen plenty. Realizing it'd be rude to keep smashing the piece, the young man steps up and tells them all he has to go. Carlo's dad leans in and tells Noah, "Come have dinner with us, if you don't mind." The hero tells Carla she needs to recover from her illness, but Carla shrugs it off. She says the discomfort is gone, and she feels even better than before, then immediately demands a hamburger. Carla's family drags Lady Serena and the others into the invite, and everyone finally agrees because they can't ignore the insistence. Fafnir grumbles, sure, he looks like a monster, but he's a herbivore, and when white apples are placed in front of him, his eyes light up like he's in heaven. The fairy blurts out that she's dying to try human food too, and Noah can't believe she's still standing there, totally baffled. She rockets up into the sky right in front of them, and the whole group breaks into happy laughter as they watch her fly. Noah can't help but think, this is actually a real family. Everyone crowded around a huge, overflowing table, tore into mouthwatering food, and traded loud, excited stories like the night was on fire. That B-rank quest to grab the magic flower, mission complete, flower secured. Noah tells them he sealed the entire forest behind a barrier, and now not a single trace of darkness can slip in again, so the fairies nod like, yep, that's exactly what we expected from Mr. Noah. The fairy thanks the hero for everything he's done, then declares that for them, Mr. Noah isn't just important, he's basically a walking deity. Noah shoots them a shy grin, then laughs awkwardly as they bow in thanks. The young man splashes away from them with a final goodbye, and the fairies beg him to come back to their forest again. Mr. Carl leans in and thanks Noah for grinding through the quest, then tells him the good news. His rank shot up to E and breaks into a proud grin to congratulate him, and Noah fires back his gratitude. The man hands the young man his reward, 5 platinum coins and a small chest, right on the promise. Noah snaps that he can't handle them, they're too much, then begs to use them for Carlos's future, but the man cuts in. That's exactly how he's already used them. Noah, her father, grasps his hands and pleads with him, don't refuse the reward, because he's earned it. A massive crowd surges in front of the building, pressing together like something huge is about to go down. The young man spots a crowd swelling everywhere, and Serena leans in to tell him, if she's right, a legendary archaeologist from Ludolf, the kingdom's capital, is about to step off his train. The girl insists they need an adventurer to tag along and trek into the ancient ruins to the east, so Noah presses her again, asking about those ruins one more time. She clocks it right away. He's interested, because he's the one who's been using that ancient magic himself. A mysterious girl bursts out loud, screaming her heartbreak like it's the end of the world. She swears she's traveled a long way from Ludolf, but as soon as she arrives, the same old adventurers block her path, so she's hunting for someone with a truly extraordinary, weirdly rare kind of talent. Mr. Carl urges her to zoom in and take a closer look at Noah. He introduces her to the hero as a brand new adventurer, someone with huge promise and the kind of spark that screams, next big thing. She stares at the young man and blurts out, so what rank are you, and what tiny dragon did you end up with on your shoulder? Noah tells her he just hit E rank, then points to the tiny dragon perched on his shoulder and says that little beast is his familiar, the same one he forged a minion contract with. The girl spins away and bluntly says he's no good, leaving Mr. Carl stunned at her choice. She says E rank doesn't even count. If they want results, they need a team of B rank, or at the very least C rank. He tells her that Mr. Noah has real experience clearing B rank missions, and she snorts like, yeah, sure, he just got lucky. The young man tells Mr. Carl, don't try to sway her. Mr. Carl hears him out and regret hits, yet he can't do a thing. Lady Serena rises to defend Noah, claiming his low rank is just because he's a brand new adventurer, and then she asks if he's even got a chance. Before she can finish, Noah snaps up and stops her, calling her by name. Turns out the girl knows Serena, and not just casually, she's an A-rank adventurer. That discovery hits her like a truck, and she can't stop staring in pure shock. She brags that even in Ludolf there's a whole crew of her fans, because she's the youngest A-rank adventurer and an absolute beast with a sword. Noah tells Lady Serena she's awesome, and she brushes it off like it's nothing. Then she adds, if you say yes, I'd love to have you escort me. Serena shoots back with an apology and refuses. She's not ready to leave to level up. She has zero interest in the ruins, unlike Noah. The girl snaps, why are you standing up for that E-rank kid? She figures it's Serena's boyfriend playing hero, so she can't help but lean that way. Then Serena shuts it down and denies the whole thing. She blurts out that Noah is unbelievable, rank or not, and backs him up personally with her A-rank guarantee. Then the heroine leans in, asks about his wounds and magic power, and he grins like nothing happened, fully recovered. They stride into the yard, and Serena goes, Noah, fight me. She says there's no faster way to prove his strength, period, and the young guy hesitates, while the girl squints in disbelief, because this whole idea sounds insane when they're staring at a massive gap in power. Everyone's staring in shock, because nobody even knows who would dare take on that lady. Serena fires up the hero, begging him not to hesitate, and praying Noah doesn't go all out. The young man chooses to dial his firepower down to sparring level, but he knows that if that ancient magic lands, it can wreck a person for real. Serena rockets into the sky and dares Noah to try and land a hit on her first. The girl swings her blowdown at him with everything she's got. The heroine tells him not to panic, because she just smacked him with the flat of her hand, though she can already tell that sting is gonna feel brutal. The girl grabs his hand and dares him to keep fighting. This time, the young man is the first one to snap into action. Serena breaks into a grin and praises his insane reflexes, then admits she's jealous he can just float in the air. The boy blurts out that it's his turn to strike. The girl nods in agreement, and he lunges his hand forward. Serena knows Noah's pulling out an absolute flame spell. Touch it, and you're not going to walk away unscathed. The hero unleashes his power by blazing up with flames that coil around him as he attacks. The girl charges toward him, confusion blazing in her eyes, because that flame isn't chasing her at all, it's frozen solid around his body. The heroine stares as Noah vanishes behind a curtain of fire, and her mind races with guesses. She worries he might have vanished, but then she steels herself, convinced the hero will totally pop up behind her back and snatch this chance. Serena is convinced that the young man is about to slip up behind her using a spatial transition. She lunges in for the attack, but surprise, Noah spots it instantly and pulls out that transition again. The young man admits beating Serena isn't easy, and Serena fires back. She says she lost, but not because she ever got a real chance. The girl shrieks in disbelief. E-rank just wiped out a rank, and as the crowd erupts, the heroes snap to attention, remembering they're on display for everyone. She shoots him a quick apology for how rude she was before, then grins and tells Noah she'd love to bring him on as her assistant while they explore the ancient ruins. That young man really wants it, so he snaps up her offer, and Serena's beaming because of it. She insists it's way too soon to say goodbye, and the hero nods, agreeing with her. The girl grins and says it was short, but pure treasure, like living inside a fairy tale, and Noah shoots back, I knew next to nothing about an adventurer's life, yet I learned a ton. Serena laughs and says she wouldn't be shocked if next time they meet, that boy has climbed to S rank, or even wears the Razde Kingdom's hero crown, and she tells Fafnir to stay safe, to which he shoots back the same kind of care. Noah turns to his friends and thanks them for everything, then reaches out and firmly shakes Serena's hand. The girl tells the hero a magical ride is waiting outside the city, and that they're heading straight to the ruins on it. He nods and agrees without hesitation. Noah gives everyone one last wave goodbye, thanks them again for the hospitality, and sends them off with heartfelt wishes for good luck. The heroes finally say their goodbyes, then the young man and the girl slip toward the forest. Mr. Carl stands there with his daughter in his arms, clearly heartbroken at leaving Noah and Serena behind, while Serena can only wish him luck and send him off. Beyond the treetops, an active volcano looms, and thick smoke claws upward from the forest, racing into the sky. The girl finally snaps into the moment and tells Noah her name, Yoon, and then drops the bomb. She's an archaeologist and a magical instrument engineer in Ludolf, the kingdom's capital. Noah answers by introducing himself, and along comes Fafnir too. Yun says you don't see a tiny talking dragon every day, and she's straight up impressed by his scary-sounding name. Noah bursts out laughing, and at last they finally reach the transport the girl was talking about. The boy blurts out, is this the magical ride you meant, and admits it's the first one he's ever seen, while the girl just grins and says, yep, it's my motorcycle, my pride and joy. She asks the boy, you ready to roll? A blast of gas spits from the exhaust pipe, and Noah blurts that a dimensional jump would get them there in a heartbeat, because he's always dreamed of seeing the whole world. The motorcycle rockets forward, and the heroes launch with it, tearing past towering mountains as clouds drift overhead. Then when evening hits, Yoon and Noah park for the night, crackling up a fire to face the dark. The very next day, they roll up to the site, and the young man can't stop staring at the ruins. Yun even urges them to drop everything and start exploring immediately. The heroes burst into the building and bolt straight into the pitch-black corridor, where the unknown waits. They stormed into ancient ruins, east of Ludolf. Yun, clutching a blazing torch, strides at the front of their little procession, and then declares, since I'm the leader, I'll be the one to train Noah first, on archaeological research. Noah nods right along. She tells him the ruins' priceless treasure is guarded by a swarm of traps, so he'd better stay sharp. Suddenly something lunges at them, and NOAA snaps into action, blazing fast, throwing up a magic barrier that shields them instantly. The hero tells her she's right, these traps are real, and Yoon snaps that she triggered the trap on purpose just to test if he'd figure it out. Magical fetters suddenly whip out of nowhere and clamp onto the girl's arms and legs, and panic hits her hard because she has no idea what's going on. Then Noah rushes in, fights through the chaos, and frees her. The bonds snap and burst apart, whipping to both sides. Then Yoon tears free and rockets into the young man's arms with a blood-curdling scream. The hero squints at it like it's an ancient weaving tool, while the girl races through her thoughts, fueled by one mission, saving her. She jabs her frown into place, furious she's already been caught twice, and now Yoon's decided she'll take on anything that comes next. The girl springs onto Noah's back, tightens her arms around his shoulders, and steers him forward, while Noah grumbles that walking like this is a pain. She vows she won't ever let go again. Then Fafnir steps up, deciding to lead the way. The heroes sprint through the corridor as the familiar darts ahead, and they close in on an empty room. Noah leans in and reassures him, everything's fine, no traps are lurking in this room. Yoon tightens her grip on him, trusting this kid with her whole heart. The hero blurts that he's locked in on the symbols carved into the wall, and the girl snaps back asking if he can decode them. Noah grins, says yes, and leans in to study the writing. He realizes the guy's daughter is old enough to handle herself, yet she chomps her food like a savage, and that's when the father starts panicking about her future, so Yoon fires back, what am I supposed to think? And Noah answers, it's an ancient diary. He keeps digging into the symbols the heroes are hearing about for the very first time, the runic calendar, and when he cross-checks it with the civilization's calendar, it lands on year 779, meaning over 779 years have already rained down on this world. Yun surmises that an ancient clan once ruled these lands just from the clues, and Noah can't help but think about it too. Noah devours the warning that reality doesn't care, and that if he wants the dream turtle defeated, he has to do it himself, come hell or high water. Then he's left staring like, wait, what kind of dream turtle is this? Jan pushes him to hunt the legendary treasure hidden in the ancient ruins, and the hero nods, then they set off together. At the very end of the corridor, they hit a dead stop, nothing but a wall staring back at them. Fafnir smiles like they've already mapped every corner of these ruins, and when the girl realizes they've searched the whole place and still found nothing, disappointment hits her hard. Yun climbs off Noah's back, tells him most ruin explorations crash into nothing, and they decide to crack the ancient records at least. The hero stares at the wall, and bam, he spots fresh words carved into it. The wall's writing demands she snatch a specific book, but Yun has no clue which one it means, so she digs through her things and pulls it out. Noah asks what the book even is, and the girl blurts that it's her secret notebook, packed with research notes and all the girly stuff too, while Yun just stares, waiting because nothing's happening. The hero grabs a pause and begs for 1 minute, because he needs to lay every thought out, piece by piece. He's convinced it's the Book of Peace, so after that one brutal incident, he searched again and again, yet it still never showed up. The young man prays she'll show up here, clenches his focus tight, and just stares ahead, imagining her words like pages flipping in a book. A book materializes out of thin air, and Noah can't help but burst with relief because he finally pulled it off. He leans in and studies the symbols like they're a code meant for him, and soon the hero pulls up everything: how many traps are hidden, exactly where they sit, how to disarm them, and even a map of the ruins. Noah cracks open the book and learns the truth. There's a staircase hidden behind the wall, and it drops straight down. With a magic spell blazing in his hands, the young man tears down the wall and swings in a brand new door. The girl stares in awe at his skills, and right there with him, they watch a hidden passage rip open in the stone wall. Noah blurts out that they can finally move on, and right behind him, Yoon can't hold back a squeal of pure delight. She snaps, "Stop, just a second. Tell me how you did it." The hero grimaces that it's hard to put it into words, then waves her onward, urging her to keep digging into her research. Yun spots the blazing flame, and Noah leans in to explain it's a torch, ancient magic at work, and when Yun brushes the wall surface, he's blown away by how the construction is nothing like the ruins above. Yoon stared in disbelief as the proof hit him. Those ancient builders crafted a civilization so much greater than today that his mind couldn't accept it. She blurts out, way too excited, that they've just uncovered the discovery of the century, and Noah can't help but think it's absolutely mind-blowing. Fafnir the dragon stares ahead, shocked. Then Yoon Blurt asks what he's seeing and what else they might find, and for a beat the heroes are totally speechless. Right there, hanging in midair, an unfamiliar girl floats above a pile of crystals that glitter and scatter everywhere. Her eyes stay shut as her arms hang still, and her cloak and long hair whip through the air like they're caught in a storm. Yoon snaps back first, then blurts out to her friends, "Wait, are we looking at a doll?" Noah stares at the girl hovering in the air. He's certain someone's right in front of him, yet the whole moment feels laced with magic. Noah's jaw drops. He never expected this could work, so he strides up to the crystals and presses his hand to the magic mechanism, and it instantly confirms what it does. It can freeze everything and even stop time. Suddenly, a blinding light erupts everywhere, and the heroes are told, access granted. The mechanism kicks to life with a roar and a deep rumble. Yoon's left totally clueless, staring at the device like, why is it on and what's happening? The girl flickers back to life, and she charges straight toward them. Just when Noah thought he was in the clear, a mysterious girl drops out of nowhere, slam, right onto him, knocking him flat on his back. He hauls himself up, scoops her into his arms, and locks eyes with her, watching the girl finally snap back to herself, and the relief hits him like a wave. The hero snaps, "Are you okay?" and she fires back in some strange, unfamiliar tongue, leaving him totally lost, not understanding a single word. Noah realizes she's suddenly speaking another language, and the curses just fly out of her mouth. Suddenly, the stranger explodes into action. Her foot hovers millimeters from the boy's face, then she slams down and goes right back for another strike. The girl drops to the ground and crawls toward Noah, dragging closer with every breath. Noah listens again, and the question hits him hard: who is she really? The stranger contorts into a horrifying arch, plants her hands and feet on the ground, and keeps spitting out unintelligible sounds. The hero suddenly hears chanting in the air, feels the situation spiral out of control, and orders Fafnir to guard Lady Yun at once. Noah and the girl lunge at each other, both at the exact same moment. They raise their hands, and an absolute blaze erupts between them, scorching the air to nothing. The heroes face off head-to-head, chanting magic straight ahead as it surges from their hands. Noah can't believe it. Out here in the modern world, people are still walking around with the power to unleash the absolute flame. Without a second to breathe, the hero lunges and hurls the girl aside. No hesitation, no measuring his strength, then realizes she's speaking an ancient tongue, and now she's unleashing absolute flame. Noah guesses she's a living survivor of an ancient age, because no other explanation fits how she can speak that old language. A young man rushes up to the girl sprawled on the ground, shouting that he isn't here to hurt her, he's no enemy. Suddenly, she springs up and locks her legs around his neck, and Noah instantly realizes there's no way he's getting a word out like this. Luckily, the hero's familiar swoops in, unleashes its full power on the stranger, and rips the young man free before he can suffocate. The hero strides up to Fafnir, now towering to monstrous new heights, and right in the middle of it all, thanks him for the help he gave. Ewan gapes at the dragon familiar's monstrous size and blurts, "So you're the real Fafnir." The stranger seethes with fury, and Noah rushes to reassure her that they're not here to hurt her. She just can't make him out, so she guesses she's hearing the runes, and right before that, she swears she felt the absolute flame-scorching power blazing through everything. The stranger grills Noah, asking if he's from the rune tribe, and Noah swallows the panic, blurting out a quick apology as he insists he's not. The hero asks Lady Yun for just a minute so he can lay it all out for the girl, and Lady Yun nods like she instantly gets it. The stranger leans in and asks if she really means she was locked away for ages inside a time-stopping tool, and Noah jumps in that they talk the same language, because his talent can decode it all. In the middle of the war between humans and devils, she still remembers how her father grabbed her and made her come here. The hero presses again about the war with the devils, only to learn the same old story. Long ago, humans and devils got stuck in a brutal, years-long grind. The stranger leans in and demands to know just how long she's been trapped in that seal. Noah answers that it's hard to believe, because the language and magic she uses are now called ancient. The girl just stares, completely blown away. She grabs this young man's attention, pulls him along to the heavenly tower, and then, boom, hits him with a request he never saw coming. The stranger tells her the watchtower is right nearby, sealed up with runes so it stays unbreakable no matter how many years crawl by, and she can't just take his word for it, she has to see the world with her own eyes. Noah asks Lady Yun if he can take the girl to the sky tower, and she shrugs, "You already passed it on the way here, I don't mind." The watchtower shoots up into the clouds, its top scraping the sky itself. Noah pulls off a wild spatial jump, and before the girl can even react, the heroes are ripped straight to the tower. The stranger stares into the distance and claims that right from here you can see the entire kingdom of runes, Kirkshisha. From the watchtower's peak, the girl leans forward and scans the kingdom sprawling out into the farthest horizon. The heroes burst into Ludolf, the kingdom's capital, and slam their stop at the fortress wall. Noah's got his eyes on the royal capital, like it's something bigger than anything else, and once again he slings Yoon over his back, with that familiar weight settling right behind him. The stranger snorts with contempt and claims Kirkshisha is way more amazing than anyone. Then the young man lets out a chuckle. They burst into the city and get funneled onto a narrow, packed street, shoulder to shoulder with everyone. The girl glistened with beads of sweat, like every heartbeat was leaking out of her. She huffs to Noah that the world feels packed, way too many people, way too many shops everywhere. The girl blurts that her gut is churning because in Kirkshish everything felt wrong, then she clings to the young man like he's her shield, right when they're suddenly called out. They stared at her from every angle, calling her a beautiful lady and a doll, gushing that they'd never seen clothes so stunning. Then they decided the stranger must be a foreign princess. Lady Yoon Ser Ezeu spots it. The girl's origins spill out right away, and Noah shoots back that her outfit looks nothing like what the capital usually allows. He shoves his long hooded cloak into her hands and tells her she'll have to wear it for a while. Alexia thanks him, straight from the heart. She claims the robe feels way more comfortable, and she's convinced it's because there are runes carved into it. Finally, they burst through the gates of Lady Yun's mansion, and the girl's face lights up with relief as a maid rushes forward, greeting her warmly and practically beaming because her mistress is back. The girl asks how the exam went, and Yoon shrugs, telling her it wasn't bad at all. She introduces the maid to her friends and says she'll be staying with them for a while, and Yoon immediately warns her that the girl is a foreigner, so she better be gentle. The maid nods like she totally gets it. She asks for the girl's okay to take her clothes, but she can't read what's going on in her head. Noah finally jumps in and tells Alexia that she's got to slip off her robe. She blurts that she's starving, and Jan erupts with laughter, like he finally gets the meaning behind it, so she quickly decides they're eating first. The heroes burst into a dining room where a gigantic set table stretches out, ready for something huge. The maid leans in and asks Noah if he wants anything special. Noah just shakes his head and tells her nope. The hero settles at the table and leans toward Alexia, asking if she has any food preferences. She says she doesn't, and the maid nods with relief, telling them to just wait a little. The young man can't stop thinking about how long it's been since the servants last treated him with real kindness. They shove plates in front of you that look so mouthwatering it's basically a warning. One bite and you're hooked. Lady Yun proudly reveals this is their chef's signature dish, then sends her guests off with a warm bon appetit. The maid drops off a basket of apples for Fanfear, and his face lights up with pure love and deep gratitude. Then Noah turns to Alexia and says, "All right, we can start eating." With a fork in hand, she's locked in, no doubt about it. She's going to test whatever's on her plate. The girl rams a fork through the meat with pure rage. Meanwhile, Noah and Ewan keep their eyes locked on Alexia. She drops a call, then chomps into her food like she can't wait another second. She rips off a chunk of meat and chews it fast, savoring every delicious bite. As Yoon watches Alexia, he realizes, somehow, that she even eats like it's primitive instinct taking over. Suddenly, the girl snaps to a stop, lifts her gaze from her food, and stares upward like something calling her name. She slips back into good manners and shoots out a quick apology to everyone at the table, and Noah steps in right away, telling her not to stress, because if the food tastes this good, why on earth would she hold back? Alexia tells him her father would snap at her all the time, and the young man nods like, yeah, royal families don't mess around. Then he grins and says, if she wants, he'll teach her. Alexia nods in agreement, and Noah grins, telling her it's as easy as breathing. He steadies the girl's hand, shows her exactly how to hold the cutlery, and cheers her on. Then she chops off a tiny bite, slides it into her mouth, and you can practically see her confidence click into place. The hero flashes a grin, saying she's doing great. Then Alexia laughs and says it tastes even better like this. Noah grins and orders the maid to bring him a loaf of bread. Then he rips it open, stuffs it with meat and vegetables, and shows you just how ridiculously good it can be. The young man proudly holds up the sandwich he just finished, and that thing looks ridiculously mouthwatering. He swears it's way easier to chow down when everything's together. Alexia nods and agrees to give it a shot. Yun stares at the sandwich like it's magic, then decides he's got to make one himself, just watching Alexia tear into it with that crazy appetite. The girl says she needs to freshen up. Noah tells her thank you, then looks at Alexia and says she can head to the bath, and right then Lady Yoon snaps, calling the girl to come with her. She reaches for her hand, and they stride down the corridor, while the young man calls out his best luck as he heads out. Fafnir feels the unease rising and presses the question, why won't the hero come with them? Noah just lets out a laugh like it's all a joke. In the bathroom, the girls strip off their clothes and toss them into neat baskets. Then they march up to this massive bathtub. Alexia starts talking in a forgotten ancient tongue, and without Noah stepping in, Yoon can't make out a single word. Worst part, Alexia can't understand what the girl is saying either. Yoon clocks her as an ancient relic and warns her not to let her excitement run wild. Without her glasses, the girl can barely see, and in Alexia's stare she spots something terrifying. Meanwhile, Alexia figures she's just taking a bath and doesn't need to say a word. Lady Yoon jabs a finger at a bottle of shampoo and fires off another sharp instruction, and the girl instantly gets the message. She wants me to start washing. Alexia watched Yoon wash his hair, and suddenly she remembered the cleansing runes in Kirkish magic that wiped every trace of grime clean in an instant. The girl can't stop staring. Why is Lady Yun drenched in foam, and what's floating around her like bubbles from some modern spell? Then she leans in and realizes it smells surprisingly pleasant. Yoon jabs her finger at the shampoo again, squeezes it into her palm, and then guides Alexia on how to rub it into a proper lather, until Alexia realizes it's made from recycled plants. Yoon can't stop staring at Alexia's flawless skin, and he blurts out that she's the princess from a forgotten ancient kingdom. She bursts into laughter, but the girl still doesn't get it, because Noah was the one who translated everything for her. Alexia glares at Yen and calls her arrogant, then slams the truth down. She's the princess of an ancient kingdom. Yun swears she isn't the kind of girl who'd say things like that, yet her blank face still feels like it's haunting her somehow, and Alexia is like, you don't need to talk in the bath. The girls sprawl in a bubbly bathtub, foam piled all around them, and Yoon can't shake the exhaustion, because not understanding the other language is a constant, brutal pain. Alexia and Yoon say something that makes zero sense at the exact same time, then lock eyes and share a sharp, knowing glance. They stay in that bathroom, locked in silence, like the whole world goes quiet around them. At last, they haul themselves up out of the water, towels wrapped tight, and then, wrapped like a fresh restart, they stare at their reflection in the mirror. Yoon slips on his glasses, points out the hairdryer like it's some kind of magic tool, and tells Alexia it'll dry her hair. She flips it on, then hot, soothing air rushes out, and Alexia thrusts her hands under the stream, soaking it in. Alexia can't believe you can use floating stuff like that, and Young's like, that ancient civilization is downright terrifying. As the evening slips in, Noah leans over and asks the girls how their bath went the second they step out of the tub. Yoon and Alexia, swaddled in those long, frilly nightgowns, beam at each other and say, "It was brutal, but we made it," and that young man finally lets out a relieved sigh. Noah can't shake the feeling that the girls are getting way closer, like something's finally clicking between them. He tells Alexia she'll feel lost without any way to communicate, and the hero urges her to dive into modern languages. Alexia then promises she'll give it her best shot. Yoon asks if she can learn to understand that ancient speech, and the young man fires back that with her erudition she'll absolutely nail it, because people from different eras can truly get along, and Fafnir has his back. Next time, all the girls gang up, begging Noah to jump in the bath with them, and he just laughs and shoots it down. The boy whips around to his father and blurts out that thanks to his gift for decoding, he can actually read a book this brutal. With sparkling eyes, the kid says it doesn't just help, it lets him understand a bunch of languages too, proving decoding is a talent people totally sleep on. His father fires back, asking what on earth all of this is supposed to achieve. He swings at the boy, and terror flares in the kid's eyes. He realizes the punch is coming again, and it's only a matter of time. The kid drops to his knees, begs his father not to strike him, and swears he'll be obedient from now on, doing everything he says. Noah jolts awake in the dead of night, shaken by a nightmare he can't explain, and he's still stuck on why it dragged him back to his childhood tonight. Meanwhile, Fafnir sleeps soundly on his pillow. A brand new day breaks, and the mansion snaps back into its normal rhythm. Noah and Alexia sit side by side at the table, shoulder to shoulder. She flashes a grin and says, plain as day, "I'm going to eat bread and a white apple," then taps the food sitting right there on the table in front of her. Alexia takes a careful bite of the loaf, and the young man lights up, praising her for understanding modern language so much better than he expected. The girl claims it's all because Noah's such a great teacher, and Noah just bursts into laughter, saying it's really Alexia's hard work that made it happen. She tells the young man to stroke her head, and he's stunned at first, but he decides she deserves it and does it. Noah then praises Alexia, calling her a good girl, and Alexia beams with happiness. She swears she'll try, and the hero can't stop wondering if her father ever held her the way he did. For a split second, Noah gets stuck replaying the look in his father's eyes from his nightmare, and when Alexia spots the shift in his mood, she demands to know if he's all right. Noah just tells her he's okay. Noah shoots her a reassuring smile, tells her everything's under control, and begs her not to worry. Then he bolts to the guild to officially register Alexia as an adventurer. The girl leans in and asks what an adventurer even is, and Noah breaks it down. An adventurer is basically a handyman for everything, from scavenging to swinging into a fight. He tells her she'll learn everything about the modern world and earn money too. Alexia snaps back that she's totally fine with being with Noah, and then the young man turns to Yoon, asking what her plans are. She's fully locked in, forging a brand new magical tool, and Fafnir can't believe her focus, because now she's on a mission to bend the power of those rune symbols to her will. They don't dare pull Lady Yun away from her work, so they head straight to the guild without her. The heroes storm into the Adventurers Guild in Ludolf the Fell. Alexia registers, gets handed a certificate, and it boldly declares she's a D-rank wizard, yet she shrugs like it was way too easy, and in her mind, she even feels she spoke incredibly stupidly. Noah tells everyone that Lady Yun had already penned a recommendation letter, and just like that, Alexia was instantly handed a D-rank, while the girl beams because she truly believes Yun is incredible, and the hero doesn't fall behind either, getting promoted to D-rank as well. Fafnir calls Noah's skills worthy of an S rank, then Noah shoots back that you can only boost one stat at a time, so Fafnir nods, grits his teeth, and decides it's finally time to head home. Alexia's stomach growls, and she tells Noah she's starving, so Noah suggests they hit the market. She's all in on the plan, then bolts forward, leaving the boy scrambling to catch up. Alexia announces that after dinner she and Noah will share a bath, then Noah snaps back that he'll never step foot in there, and right then Fafnir steps in and offers the girl his bid. The hero admits that only now did the thought hit him, what kind of gender is his familiar, exactly? Nola swings in for another shot, and for a second, her words just vanish. Out of nowhere, a towering man in a long black cloak slammed into their path, and his silhouette lit up in Noah's eyes. The young man's eyes widen, because the man standing there is his father, and he never, ever expected to see him here. The hero demands why he's in the kingdom's capital, and Alexia stares right into the man's face, spotting Noah's father. He snaps that all answers will wait, then they rush back to the mansion at once. Noah points out to his father that it was him who kicked him out, and his father snaps, "Shut up, listen." The man snatches the boy's hand. Fafnir is already poised to defend his friend, and Noah snaps at his father that he won't be coming back. He snaps back that he's got his own things to handle now. Then his father finally releases his hand, and everything clicks into place. Noah storms back with a threat. "If that's how it is, I'll take it back by force." And a blazing fireball ignites in his hands. Alexia and Fafnir, right in the blast zone, get yanked under his body as he warns them. Then he turns and introduces them to his father. The man, blazing in a ring of fire spheres, is, according to the young man, without a doubt the deadliest firemage alive. The father blasts every fireball at his son in one brutal sweep, but he smashes through them all, totally catching the old man off guard. Noah slams a glowing magical barrier in front of him, and every ball crashes into it with a thunderous impact. He dubs it ancient magic. His father gapes when purple flames erupt, convinced Princess Claudia was right. Then he presses Noah, asking if he finally found the ancient grimoire, and Noah snaps back, "Yes." The man figures that decoding unlocked ancient magic in Noah from forbidden grimoires, so he demands Noah get back to the estate and take over as the next head of the family, but Noah outright refuses. Noah slams the refusal, because his father only cares about the talent he sees, yet the man still totally misses what Noah is trying to say. He can't figure out what's wrong, because to the Aldiheims, they're royalty-level wizards, and talent is the only thing that matters. The young man says nothing, just sits there with Fafnir glaring menacingly from his shoulder, and his father snaps that he never meant to unleash a pogrom in the kingdom's capital, but if things keep going like this, he'll have to. Noah unleashes another storm of magic at his son, and when he glances back, he sees Alexia's hands stretched out in panic, so he blurts, "What's wrong?" The girl fears the man is about to hurt Noah, so she grabs the young man's attention and begs him, "Don't pull your punches, don't ignore the truth that he's your father." The man stares at Alexia like a threat and spits, "You nasty little girl." Suddenly the earth starts to violently tremble under their feet, and without even glancing away from his father, Noah blurts out a warning, "Earthquake." Just like that, the chaos flares up, and then vanishes just as fast. Neighbors spill out onto the street, snapping "You okay?" at each other, all of them staring like, "Why did everything shake so hard?" That man snarls at Noah, promising he'll bring him back no matter what, and he even warns his own son, telling him not to try running, because it won't matter. As his father walks out, the young man swallows his nerves and calls out. Then he whips back to Alexia, thanking her fast, and apologizing for his father right after. The girl doesn't even flinch, she's lost in her own thoughts. Fafnir leans in and asks if he feels the same way, and Noah answers, "Yeah." Then, out in the distance, an unbelievable source of magical power starts to rise. A colossal monster tore into the kingdom, its shell packed with razor-sharp spikes. The girl leans in and tells Noah, it's a dream turtle. Alexia can't believe she's still here. Somehow she survived and is living in the modern world. Right out of the east of the royal capital, a gigantic monster just erupted into view, and it's charging straight this way. Ancient ruins have records that name him the Dream Turtle. Lady Yun barrels into the royal palace and lays the monster's details before the royal family herself. The princess trembles with pure terror, and the king vows to pacify the Dream Turtle with every ounce of power the kingdom of Razday can unleash. He barks an urgent command to the Knight Order, assemble a mage unit now, and summon every rank D adventurer and above without wasting a second. The king barks orders, send word to every nearby adventurer guild, right now. Mr. Carl and Serena got the message. His Majesty wants as many adventurers as he can pack into the royal capital of Ludolf. Yun blurts to Alexia and Noah that she still can't wrap her head around the fact that almost everyone grew up with their ears ringing. The girl is thrilled the heroes instantly clocked the Dream Turtle's scent, because at that speed, it'll smash into the capital in just 3 days, so they'll start calming it down tomorrow, in 2. Yun tells Alexia she'll be holed up in the castle, mapping out a strategy from what she shared, while they can use the mansion however they want for now. Alexia begs her not to burn herself out, then tells her to rest. The girl flashes a quick wave goodbye and slips away. The maid blurts that she's sorry, but Noah and Alexia need to evacuate too, because they've been ordered to. The girl realizes the city has gone eerily silent, because in the capital, only soldiers and adventurers remain, ready to step in for the pacification. Noah urges them to rest, insisting they should save every ounce of strength for the decisive battle, and the girl nods right along. They trade a goodbye at the bedroom doorway, and the young man tells her goodnight, until Alexia yanks the moment to a stop and calls his name. She leans in and asks if she can sleep with him tonight. Noah, Fafnir, and Alexia all piled onto the bed and finally settled in. The girl locks eyes with the hero and pleads for his forgiveness. She tells him that ever since the dream turtle showed up, the memories of what happened keep slamming into her nonstop, and the terror is so strong she can't even close her eyes. Noah finally gets it, and as he watches, he sees that the familiar is curled up asleep, right there, missing his hind legs. Alexia leans in and asks the young man if he's on bad terms with his father. Noah blurts out, yes, and then he's ready to spill everything to her. He blurts out that he's from the mighty Aldheim family, then admits they cast him out because his magic was worthless. The girl dreams of them getting along, but Noah shuts it down. He insists it's way messier than it sounds. Alexia grabs his hand and demands he promise her, no matter what, he won't die. She tells him, I know just how strong you are, but then she warns, the dream turtle is a beast you can't compare, because even in Kirkshish, no one ever measured up to him. Noah grabs her by the heart and swears he won't die. He's going to smash the dream turtle and win. She curls up against his chest, and he gently runs his hand through her hair. Alexia's out cold, and now he's left staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how he's going to fall asleep too. The young man tightens his grip and tells himself to stay calm, because that dream turtle is probably the toughest monster standing in his way. He can't stop wondering whether his father will join the pacification as an ally, and the thought is crazy encouraging. At last, all three crash out, and the bedroom goes deathly quiet. Morning breaks, and inside the mansion, Fafnir yanks Alexia and Noah awake. The young man blurts out, what happened, because he's terrified the dream turtle's movement might have wrecked everything. The dragon grumbles that it's already past noon and snaps, how much longer are you going to sleep? Noah jolts up and blurts, what? I can't believe it's this late. He remembers they've got to be at the garrison today, and he orders Alexia to wake up and get changed, while she drags her eyes open, half asleep, rubbing them like she can't believe the day started. She starts slipping into a new outfit, but Noah, plus his familiar, are already out the door. The hero asks if she's really not worried at all, since she slept like a rock the day before the decisive battle. Then she snaps back that he snored like a pig too. Fafnir just shrugs and says the only thing that matters is they made it there in time. Meanwhile, in the eastern stretch of Ludolf, a garrison sits on guard, trying to keep a ghostly turtle from wreaking havoc. Alexia can't believe how packed it is with people, and Noah leans in to tell her that even folks from the nearby towns show up too. In the crowd, a few faces look downright unreal, people whispering that they're probably S-rank adventurers, and there are only 12 in the whole kingdom of Razde, and Fafnir has a question for Noah. Everyone keeps saying this fight won't be easy for him, trapped as a tiny dragon, but he can't shift into his real form with all these people watching. He slips into the tent and pops out on the other side, shocking his friends with a shadow that looks totally wrong. The heroes stare as Fafnir morphs into a human, a girl, and the familiar grins and says this body means he can go wild with zero issues, because to him, gender is something that doesn't even exist. Every adventurer gets a strategy guide for the emergency quest. Noah can't help but crack it open and take a look. Alexia leans in and asks what's written there, and Fafnir just shrugs, I have no idea, while the young man kicks things off, saying the forces on this page are split into 3 main groups. The first strike force is packed with the knights of the Razde army, and backed by a whole unit of mages ready to burn the battlefield. The hero blurts out that a second strike force is on their tail, and then, boom, everyone from the capital Ludolf, plus the adventurers who have rolled in from the nearby cities, gets assigned to deal with it. The final shield is the court mages and the S-rank adventurers, so when Alexia asks why they can't strike immediately, Noah shuts it down and says the smarter move is to let the army run the command. The hero blurts that his father's name sits among the commanders of the last squad, and he can't help feeling lucky, since they're split into different groups. Running into him during the mission feels like a long shot. And NOAA also warns that multiple mechanisms will slam the brakes on the Dream Turtle's progress. Fafnir stares at what they've readied so fast, but then the real fear hits. How long will everyone else survive when that monster comes? Alexia admits she never thought she'd face him again on this very land, then begs her father and the people of Kirkshish to keep them safe. She vows right to your face that this time she'll finally smash the Dream Turtle for good. Noah tells them, let's put everything where it belongs for now, and pushes them into a tent for the night. The princess turns to Noah's father and thanks him for stepping up, then begs him for forgiveness for what happened that day. Mr. Hildegund is convinced Princess Claudia can't simply step in and take over at such a young age, because Her Highness is terrified that anything could happen to her father. The man's convinced Noah is tied to the emergency mission too, and if Noah proves himself, he's going to lock eyes with Claudia for sure. He tells the princess he wants to charge at the front, and she shoots back that Mr. Hildegand is insanely brave, but with his skills, he'd be far better suited as the commander. The very next day, it's go time, battle S on the horizon, and the knights lock shields, close ranks, and stand ready to fight. The Razday knights slammed into the field, gathering in a fierce, ready-for-battle huddle. A thunderous cannon blast erupts, boom, and the emergency mission kicks off, igniting the fight against the Dream Turtle. The fight is live, and that ghost turtle is already charging onto the battlefield. Refugees spill into a temporary shelter on the very outskirts of the kingdom's capital. The kid blurts to his mother, "Is that bad monster trying to smash our home?" And she reassures him, "Don't be scared, Raz's fierce soldiers will drive him back and defeat him." The mother leans in and reassures her daughter, swearing that everything is going to be okay. Right now on the battlefield, the cannons are cranked to their highest angle, and shell after shell rains down on the monster, one impact at a time. The commander gets the grim report that nothing's working, the Dream Turtle still won't stop, so he snaps at his soldiers to keep their heads and keep firing, all while wondering what kind of protection could be this unbreakable. The monster is closing in fast, and the soldiers lock their shells tight, ready to fire. A rampaging ghost turtle slams into them, and the commander barks, "Retreat." A colossal monster lunges into the battlefield, wrecks everything it touches, and sends the whole army sprinting for their lives. The adventurers get the news. The turtle is nearly at the second line of defense, so they'd better brace themselves and get ready to clash in battle. The adventurers are raring to charge into battle, and you can feel it. After all this time, they're finally ready to fight back and tear that monster down. A ghostly turtle is closing in on them, fast and fearless. Reports hit hard, shells are nearly gone, and the protective barrier is busted. Then the command snaps, regroup immediately. The soldiers already feel like nothing matters, convinced they can't stand the front line, each one sinking into despair as the end draws closer. They swing back to the commander, and all he does is clench his teeth. The man barks an order to strike, and the soldiers surge forward without hesitation. They sprint straight into the monster, fighting for their country, their comrades, their families, everything they love, ready to pay for it with their own lives. A massive ghost white turtle loomed so monstrous that the soldiers looked like nothing but tiny grains of sand. Alexia thanks the brave warriors of this era, praising their courage and pride like its shining armor. She bursts into the sky, locking eyes with the stunned soldiers and swearing they'll survive this battle. The girl slams up a magical barrier, trapping the whole army behind a shimmering protective dome. She launches an assault on the monster and shouts for the soldiers to retreat. Right now, no hesitation. Alexia snaps a warning. This giant is already right on their doorstep. The ghost turtle is already here, so the girl snaps her command and yells at everyone to run right now. The soldiers freeze in shock, stunned speechless, while Noah keeps his eyes locked on Alexia. The hero whirls around to face the Dream Turtle. He claims it's all because of her. Kertshish is wiped clean, and Alexei's father is dead too. The young man rips open the sky and summons a roaring magical tornado, then slams it into the monster. The soldiers stare in disbelief, asking where that tornado even came from. Then Alexia and Fafnir lock eyes and glance at Noah. The hero screams that ever since the turtle, Alexia has been left alone, completely alone. The young one calls forth the Stormblade, and the air crackles with power. He charges back at the ghost turtle again, fists flying as it reappears. Noah hammers the monster with non-stop punches, blow after blow. Alexia can't wrap her head around it. After that brutal attack, not a single scratch, like her shell defense was pure magic. The girls stare in shock as the turtle tanks blow after blow without breaking. Noah figures out the Dream Turtle's shell can gulp in magic and then blast it right back. Alexia warns the young man that he can outlast the monster's firepower, but when it's her turn, he's realized he's up against a nightmare opponent. The hero feels like quitting, like everything's the same as the mithril golem before. Noah snaps in, saying the only way forward is swapping out the Dream Turtle, with the Book of Peace guiding the change. He orders Alexia and Fafnir to tie up the Dream Turtle for a while, then grins, because he's got a plan to take it down. The hero leans in and tells them the real issue. He's going to be stuck, unable to move for a while. They beg Noah to put his trust in them. The young man shoots them a grateful smile and thanks them right then and there. He kicks his plan into gear, and Alexia and Fafnir lock eyes in a quick, charged exchange. The girl snaps around and asks Noah, trembling, if the magic attack behind them is getting to him, while Noah reassures her that he's totally fine. The young guy snaps, "You too, get on the dream turtle for me." Noah spots a familiar presence closing in, and his mind races. Because of all the wrong times, it's happening right now. His father slams the truth down. The young man has to vanish, right here, right now. The hero clocks it instantly. His opponent is wrapped in a robe packed with protective magic. He's blown away, blurts out that it's an ancient relic, then admits it's totally outdated now, that modern magic has moved way past it. The boy barks the order to unleash the third level, Flame Whip, then commands the fire to harden into a whip and stop the attacking hero in their tracks. The boy yells at his father to stop. This isn't the moment to strike, but his warning gets ignored because Dad snaps back that he doesn't care about the dream turtle or what happens to the kingdom's capital. The man snaps that he has no time for them, so the hero cranks his assault up to pure, blazing flames, only for the enemy to slam back with an ice technique and forge an ice wall in front of it. Noah surges forward and fires magic shot to slam aside the enemy's strike, then unleashes absolute flame, so deadly it ignores the rules of compatibility. He roars about it and drives his technique straight up to the 6th level of flame. The enemy snaps back with a brutal spell, Lava Meteor, trying to crash down and smash him with one crushing hit. The mage snaps in shock at the hero's raw strength, insisting he never thought some worthless talent could even brush against his power, and he's already convinced this force won't end up in the hands of the Uldheim family. He worries that once the boy's expulsion hits the air, their reputation will take a brutal hit. Maybe he'll even lose his title, so he rushes to make it clear that no matter what, it can't happen, and he cuts himself off mid-sentence. He realizes he can't let it happen. If he refuses to go back home, he's basically choosing to wipe out his son, Noah Uldheim, from existence. The son stares his enemy down, spits out "father" with a storm in his heart, and declares, no matter what, that he won't go back home and won't let himself be handled like prey. The protagonist snaps that he's already made up his mind. He's going to crush the dream turtle. The boy finally admits he doesn't want to fight the enemy, but the pressure of the moment drags him into action. He tells them the mess he's in has forced his hand, and that thought only hardens his resolve. The father spots the hero's serious face and blurts out his son's name, stunned. The enemy erupts in furious outrage, screaming that the hero's calling him father is pure impudence. The son chokes out that it's already too late to fake being a father, his struggle and raw emotion cracking through every word. The father blurts out in shock that the kid's vanished, then realizes it's transference magic. The black-haired man with the mustache clenches his jaw and declares the hero won't get away, then sneers, calling him a brat. Noah slams down his stance and declares he's not running or hiding. He's braced, locked in, and ready to keep the fight going. The boy snaps in rage, orders the hero to let go of him, and warns that if he doesn't, disaster is coming. The father snaps back, telling the hero, I'm your real biological dad, and you can see shock hit him when he hears his son plans to confront him. The protagonist lets out a heavy sigh, steels himself, and bids his father goodbye, heart aching, choice made. The girl asks how she's feeling, and she flashes total confidence, saying everything's perfectly fine. They call Noah by a special name, and when the delay hits, that guy rushes over and throws out a heartfelt apology to everyone else. Noah's not playing around. He's dead set on taking on the dream turtle now, and right as he's fired up, the girl shoots a question about his father. He shoots back that his father is gone, and he doesn't have one anymore. The heroine gasps in shock and blurts out, I'm going in, I'm attacking. The protagonist hatches a plan. The two rush in to draw the enemy's attention for a heartbeat while he zeroes in on the perfect defense and lays out exactly how to beat it. They all nod and jump in to help right away, and every move screams, we're finishing this. The mage refuses to let anything stop him. He's determined to press as close as he can to the dream turtle to pull off his goal, and the others waste no time, stepping in and pledging to join his chase. Someone's like, can he really take that monster down by himself? And then another person snaps back, yeah, people like him don't use monsters to survive. They use monsters for their own plans. The heroes brace themselves for battle, and one of them shouts, all right, time to go tear into the dream turtle. Noah admits he should have handled that job himself, but he finally gets it. Teamwork is everything now, and the others back him up fast, swearing they'll protect him no matter what. The boy finally gets how bad this really is, and he snaps into action, launching a plan to flip the whole situation around. They claim this is the headquarters. Right here, they're trying to calm the dream turtle. Then the girl blurts, "What's going on up front?" And someone snaps back, "The second line of defense is cracking right now." Word on the street is that a crew of super strong adventurers has slammed the brakes on the Grey's turtle's advance. The bespectacled girl is convinced that Noah and his crew are the extraordinary adventurers, and she pushes for the full army to back them. The hero clenches his resolve and vows, no way in hell is he letting the enemy smash through the final line of defense. The leader snaps into action, yelling that the reinforcements have to be rounded up fast, and that every S-rank adventurer better lock into battle positions now. Then he calls out using magic tools to fortify the defenses. The hero pores over the text packed with strange symbols, convinced they're encrypted, and swears this is the perfect shield. Then he realizes this case isn't the same as what happened with the Guardian Golan. The boy takes a gamble on his code-breaking gift and tries to read it. Then he swears he can finally understand what the message is saying. The young guy thinks, if I rewrite part of the text about that dream turtle shell. Noah can't stop thinking he might have messed up when he changed the text. The protagonist realizes he has to swap out every single symbol to crack the dream turtle's defenses. He tells you he poured hours into the library, digging through ancient codes like they held the key to everything. The hero leans in and declares he's ready to keep decoding ancient grimoires, again and again, until every secret breaks open. The magician smirks like this is nothing, already convinced he'll crack every secret in front of him. She snaps with pure irritation, yelling that the hero is problematic for refusing to back off. The soldier snaps that we have to strike the enemy's exposed weak spots, then pour every single attack into one crushing point. The heroine blurts that she doesn't even know who she is, but right now, the horned girl's their last hope, and she needs to lock in magical support on her. She also insists magic won't work on the dream turtle anyway, then pleads for them not to hold back. She's stunned those she'd fought tooth and nail with suddenly rush in to help her. The monster snaps, furious that they underestimated him, and then admits it himself, he used to be too soft. He keeps insisting it's all because of the time he spent in prison. In that instant, they know hesitation is a death sentence, so the monster turns to Noah and demands forgiveness. The enemy boasts that he's been kicked back into his evil form, and the soldier's jaw drops in pure disbelief, because this shouldn't be possible, not with the corrupted disaster dragon, Fenrir, still out there. Someone leans in and warns the opponent, "Don't let that confidence inflate your ego, stay sharp, or you'll regret it." Two warriors huddle up and lay it bare. This isn't the moment for talking. They insist the girl has unleashed abilities so wild they're comparing her to the legendary creature, Fafnir Sublige. They say that even with all the hardships stacked against him, he'll still push through to cover for Fafnir as the dream turtle closes in, no matter how brutal the effort has to be. The girl's mind races as she clocks the magic Noah's using. He's not just fighting, he's trying to rewrite something. Then she turns to Fafnir and begs forgiveness for everything she's being forced to go through. You can see the Book of Peace asterisk, a legendary power forged by the Rune King himself, said to be able to rewrite the laws of this world. They say the Book of the Heritage of the Rune people somehow wound up in the hands of someone who wasn't even from the Rune folk. The enemy shoots out a bitter sigh, convinced that after the last war he wiped out every Rune person, while the girl glares and says, "This is on you again, isn't it?" The heroine shouts at the enemy to stay away from Noah, but the monster snarls back, then demands they leave, because he refuses to let them use the Rune people's book power again. And he hardens his resolve and insists, "Noah, right here, I'm handling it myself." The girl snaps back, hands steady, saying she's going to protect him, because she can't afford to lose anyone she loves again. The monster sneers that Rune people never learn a thing, then demands an answer. Why does it take them so long to finally resist him? And he tells them to team up with their allies. His adversary lets out a grim warning. No one is safe to face his power, the thing he calls darkness. The heroine shoots him a worried look and urges him to hurry right now. The hero tears into his books, hungry for clues, desperate to crack the mystery and find a way out of this mess. They say the bearded old man in the pointed hat and staff is none other than the legendary Archmage Lawrence, and the shadowy guy dressed in black is the dragon specialist who handles problems for a living. His name is Siegfried. They say the alienated Missay is hanging out with Fenrir, the king of beasts, so when she admits it, she shrugs that, as an elf, she doesn't care what happens in the royal capital, and right then the wolf snaps around and tells her to stop saying stuff like that so loud. She steps up and tells everyone she's an S-rank adventurer from Hackville, the neighboring Aledo dukedom, where the familiar guild sits, and she didn't climb to S-rank with a party at all, just with her familiar backing her every step. The ear-tipped character scans the crowd and realizes, wow, so many incredible personalities have gathered here at once. Then another girl steps up and starts flexing her best self. Someone even asks if she's an A-rank adventurer, Serena. The heroes sure Noah, and the others are already smashing through the front lines right now. She says the task force is grinding nonstop, and the girl insists it's crystal clear. The kingdom of Razd's future lives or dies on how things play out. The kid calls out Highness Claudia, and the moment the girl locks eyes with the familiar face, shock hits, then she gasps her gratitude to Yuna for steering her right. He waves off their gratitude like it's nothing, saying this isn't the moment to thank him. Yuna tells Claudia the Dream Turtle is about to slam into the last line of defense. Good news, the front lines bought us time. Bad news, if things go south, you've got to evacuate right now. Serena declared she won't move an inch, insisting the people on the front lines are fighting with pure courage, so there's nothing for her to fear. The heroine fires back that she's the king's voice, and if she vanishes, everything tilts because the moment she leaves, the soldiers' morale gets crushed and shaken to the core. She smirks with total confidence and declares the Dream Turtle is getting taken down for good and that they're not losing. Even here, the soldier can't miss it. The princess's heart won't budge, not even when the dragon roars like thunder. And right then, he steels himself. They'll stay together all the way to the very end. She thanks him for everything, but then her voice drops as she worries they'll lose touch with Mr. Hildegard since he's been moved to the front. Claudia, her highness herself, leans in and prays that the man is finally okay now. The knight yells for Mr. Hildegard and orders his fellow soldier to sprint after the winged dragon. Right now, no delays. The man can't stop asking why he's even here, and the soldier grins and tells him the best part. He's alive, thankfully. He reports that the gentleman got hurt during the operation to take down the Dream Turtle. The fighter says he only blacked out for a moment, and somehow his body didn't take a single serious hit. The hero blurts out an apology for the trouble. Then the man fires back that Mr. Hildegard is their big hard work, their real push. That man suddenly freezes, like he's missing something huge, and then he blurts out in shock, rocked by those strange, unsettling feelings. The aristocrat spots a robe packed with ancient inscriptions, jolts in shock, and starts frantically trying to figure out where he's seen it before. He's convinced he's seen that robe before, but no matter how hard he tries to remember, it's like his brain short-circuits, pain and a nasty headache hit, and something inside him feels like it's crawling. The hero is 100% sure he has to figure out who owns this mantle, because knowing that truth feels like it could decide everything for him. Another character clocks the hero and blurts, "You okay?" And the man nods, "Yeah, I'm fine. My head's hurting a little, but it doesn't feel like anything serious." He snaps out of his headache and shuts down all distractions, insisting they have to deal with the Dream Turtle ASAP. He makes up his mind, he's taking the winged dragon. Then another character shoots back, warning that the hero hasn't fully healed from his injury yet. Mr. Hildegard digs in his heels, refuses to budge, and orders the dragon to take off, shutting out every warning those around him try to raise. The hero spots a surge of terrifying magic blasting across the Dream Turtle's shell. The enemy growls that the hero is the last rune representative and swears they're coming for him. The man slams on the 7th level of light, unleashing it to crush the evil manifestation in front of him. The girl shoots the hero a worried look and asks if he's really okay. Then she's shocked he never sat down and sorted things out with his father. They straight up admit that they crossed paths earlier in the royal capital. Noah's father erupts in fury the moment she shows up, orders her to get out and says he'll handle the rest himself, while Noah stares in shock because her father doesn't look anything like the man he used to be. She can tell he's changed, like he's not the same man she once knew, and even as she thanks him for helping her, she can't shake the worry. Did his attitude toward his son change too? An adventurer leans in and says, "Let's team up together. We'll shield you from whatever comes next." Mr. Hildegard turns and demands, "So you're the one standing behind me, are you Noah?" She's shocked he still asks who this guy is, because that's his own son, and the man's jaw drops at the truth. His head immediately starts pounding again. The hero blurts out that he's got no father left, and the girl stares at him in shock. She spots Noah casting a memory wipe spell on his father, and her stomach drops, because she realizes Noah might be wiping all his own memories just to keep his dad alive. The monster snarls and calls what's happening a pathetic parody, and the man and the girl realize this thing is a surviving spirit of darkness, even after a direct hit from a 7th level spell. She's convinced she's the real main villain, the one who summoned the Dream Turtle, so when she looks at the young man, her voice turns soft as pity hits hard, and she can't stop apologizing for what he's gone through. The The heroes step up to make their case and team up to crush the spirit together, while the father grins and throws them his power. She grabs his hand, thanks him with a shaky smile, and tells him that the memories wiped out by memory erasure won't ever come back. And admits he's been getting lonely too, just like she is right now. Then the monster roars that numbers don't change a thing, and suddenly there are two of them. Mr. Hildegand fires back, asking if the guy is his son, and then flat out scoffs, saying he's never heard anything more ridiculous in his life. His eyes narrow. This name feels weirdly familiar, like he's heard it somewhere before. The hero blurts out, "That name feels familiar," and shouts it with everything he's got, calling it in for protection. The man fires up his fire magic, snapping a level 7 wall of flames into place to guard himself from every attack. He clocks the protagonist fighting the enemy's flawless defense and slams massive magical power into the dream turtle to break through. People say that in this state, even the magician's life is on the line, no protective spell in sight, and it makes you wonder why nobody around the hero bothered to teach him the basics of magic. The father tells him he burned the 3rd level of flame to forge a fire phantom, an outright trick to fool the enemy, and then drives it home. A weaker mage can't do this without illusions, because it's nothing but a fiery deception. Mr. Hildegund snaps, "Why'd I miss again? Are you really a spirit of darkness?" The monster grins and warns, "Go ahead, keep trying to fool me, because you're going to regret it." The first character cheers that the spirit of darkness isn't exactly sharp, and the second one grins, because that means they've got a little time to breathe. The father snarls that this guy is burning through way too much magic power. Then the girl steps in and offers to transfer it all to her character. The man tells her she's reached her limit, then bears the truth. He has no choice. He has to do it. The character leans in and asks the man straight up, does he honestly think he can break through the dream turtle's flawless defense? Mr. Hildegand leans in and warns her to stay sharp, because the spirit of darkness is coming. He questions Reina and then spots it. The young man looks strikingly like her. The adventurer suddenly gets hit with a headache, and it keeps roaring louder by the second. The magician's locked in his head, replaying this guy, and then that other character, over and over. The heroine yells for him, Hilda. She spots him again, passed out at the table, sound asleep like he didn't even mean to. She tells him, "I get why grimoires hook you," then slams the brakes on their excitement, "But you've got to know when to stop." Renee tells the hero to sleep in a real bed, so he stops nodding off at the table, and she's worried the baby might pick up that same habit too. The man throws himself at her feet, begging for forgiveness, and people swear he first laid eyes on her when he met her at the Royal Academy of Magicians. He slips a bombshell. He was born into the magical aristocrats, the Aldiheims, and somehow magic was in his bones. The girl snaps that Renee's just a commoner, though a dangerously gifted one, and because she works like there's no tomorrow, her sheer grit and fire earn her the top spot among everyone who steps into the Academy of Magicians. The hero snaps that they always fought back and forth, because he's an aristocrat, and he refuses to be beaten by her. He explains that she didn't get dragged into this. She stepped up on her own, taking his challenges willingly, all because she burned to crush that high-ranking aristocrat. He swears they went all out in every clash, yet somehow their bond clicked into something peaceful, before either of them could even catch their breath, feelings ignited between them. He claims their families hated the relationship from the start because they came from totally different worlds, but love doesn't take orders, so they fought back, insisted on each other, and tied the knot anyway. She spots what it is at once, and the persona shoots back that it's written, straight up, a grimoire. She tells you this is the very first ice magic book, made for beginners, and yes, it's ice magic everyone can actually learn. The aristocrat claims that being born into the Aldiheim family should mean he learns at least that much, but even that won't be nearly enough. The girl asks what to name the kid, and the man just admits he hasn't even started thinking about it yet. The magician plops down at the table, lost in thought, then grins and says, "Not bad at all, because this trick fits boys and girls alike." The doctor slams the truth down. She's in critical condition, and unless things change fast, he's not going to get to finish the story. They say Ramina's health was never truly stable, and honestly, it was only a matter of time. The gentleman leans in and tells her, "Don't say a word, everything's fine." The man brags that they've got an awesome doctor and even midwives, swears he'll be there, then reveals he already picked a name for their baby, Noah, and asks what her name is. The woman leans in and says she loves the name Noah because it's straight up beautiful. Rain chokes on regret, knowing he won't get to see his baby's face when it's born, and he begs her forgiveness for all the trouble he keeps bringing into her life. They lock fingers together, and you can practically feel the love exploding between them. The girl blurts out that she loves him, like it's the only truth that matters. Soon after this, Riene breaks through the world's silence and delivers a gorgeous baby boy, but with that miracle, she's taken from this world too. He begged her not to leave his side, trembling with fear, needing her presence like it was his lifeline. He finally snaps to the truth. He should have loved Noah the way he loved Reyna, and he should have been a real father to him, but he admits he couldn't face Reyna's death, and it shattered his mind. An aristocrat stares at the child and feels a massive surge of magical power he's never once encountered, and it hits him so hard it leaves a scarred, unforgettable impression. The magician realizes the girl gave her own life to bring this child into the world, and that devotion makes him priceless. People say he shielded his own mind by tossing the blame for what happened to his beloved Antinoa onto someone else, and he's convinced this kid will grow up to be the most powerful magician in the world, all because his magic is like nothing anyone's ever seen. 5 years after everyone saw his talent bloom, he still didn't manage to finish his speech. He's choking on grief and disappointment, saying his dream didn't just break, it shattered in a single hour. Mr. Hildegand finally cracks and admits he tried to hurt his own child with Riene. He flat out admits he thinks he's the worst father in the entire world. He stares at what he did to Noah, and the truth hits hard. Some choices can't be taken back anymore. He whips around to face his son, stunned and unsure, while the girl quickly adds this gut punch. Those erased memories won't come back. The shadow lunges forward in a blink. Dread tightens the air, and it smirks. I found you after all. The monster snarls, asking if they really enjoyed playing him for a fool, and the woman immediately barks at the others to stay sharp and steer clear of danger. She screams for everyone to flee, because with her magic power gone, she can't resist the pull of the darkness anymore. The enemy leans in and lays out, straight up, why they're sure he'll let them walk away. The enemy snarls that the Rune people are moments from vanishing, and swears that no matter what happens, nothing will ever change. The man freezes and questions everything, doubts crash in, and worry tightens around his thoughts. He claims he left the girl to stand on her own, then he snaps, why am I running? Mr. Hildegand can't stop wondering what to do next, and his confusion churns into indecision. The father keeps replaying the moment he'll finally see his son's eyes open, wondering if all the cold, clueless way he's treated him can still be fixed, and whether a real apology will even matter anymore. The hero insists the best move is to vanish from this world for good. The spirit of darkness erupts in laughter and calls the Rune people stupid. The monster offers him a brutal deal: hand over his son quietly and it'll spare him, saving him while taking everything else. The heroine shoots back with ironclad confidence. There's no way the spirit of darkness is ever going to take that guy over. The enemy sneers that even the Rune King can't change the Dream Turtle, no matter what he inherited from the Book of Peace, because the Rune King himself couldn't do it either, so he demands they surrender and offer up a worthy account. Another character begs, please let me go. Shadow snaps that coming back after something like that means his mind must have gone empty, and Mr. Hildegand quickly reassures the others that Noah is safe. He insists he raised the barrier to protect his son, just in case something ever went wrong. He looks at himself and sees nothing but worthlessness. Then it hits him. He's crushed his own son's life. The aristocrat jolts with shock, then realizes, cold and crushing, that his life has lost all meaning. He thinks if he keeps running from his problems, everything's just going to crash back down again, so when he finally admits he never learned how to handle Riene's death, he doesn't take the blame himself, he throws it onto his son. The magician slams his declaration down. Running away isn't even on the table, because he can't keep fleeing his problems anymore. He says that for Riene, his late wife, he has to love his son, Noah, and this time he's choosing life. The monster clocks that the hero looks off, then sneers, thinking there's zero reason to waste a fight on someone this useless. Mr. Hildegand claims he's still the most powerful fire mage on the planet. He tells that a bad spirit like me will get burned to ashes by his own flames, and the monster laughs it off as nonsense. Then it brings up Noah and Reyna, saying they're the ones he begs forgiveness from for what he did. And none of it Aldiheim's magic family reputation, its leader's authority, or whether their talent is a hit or a flop, means a thing to him. He roars his command and summons the fire spirits scattered across eternity to answer. The spirit leans in and challenges the hero. Does he really think it'll hold back and wait while he casts the spell? He admits he got fooled by the exact same trick twice, and then says, yeah, that's why he's an idiot. The hero whips around to the ancient flame and shouts for it to come to him, burning up everything in his path. They're reportedly firing a 10th level flame limit meteor, flame to scorch the enemy back to nothing. He admits he can't do a thing against the magic-immune Dream Turtle, so he just gets everything instead. Noah's father tells him that he has to keep pushing forward because his own strength is gone and he can't keep the fight going anymore. The girl blurts that his magic is absolutely magnificent, and then someone jumps in like, even as a human, he actually pulled this off. The monster can't believe it. Whoever thought he'd be dragged into revealing himself by someone like him? He realizes this is the first transformation in 100 years. Then the creature smirks and tells the hero not to fear it at all, because it'll end his suffering with one bite. Someone rushes up to Alexia and begs her forgiveness, admitting, "I stayed too long." The boy speaks up, and as he looks at the creature, he realizes this is the darkness spirit he'd heard whispered about. He snaps to it. Now that the protection's gone, he's got a perfect opening to unleash magical damage on the dream turtle. The protagonist blurts out in shock, asking what the heck is going on around him. So many questions are burning in his throat, but he cuts himself off because it's clearly not the moment to talk. Meanwhile, the girl spots a crack spreading across the dream turtle's shell. The young man snaps that Mr. Heldigan's supreme magic is finally kicking in and warns it's deadly right here, so he urges everyone to scatter away from the shell for now. The moment he set his sights on the dream turtle, he prepared to unleash a brutal counteroffensive. The heroes spot the dream turtle's shell starting to crumble, just a little, but definitely not stopping, and they realize this is still unfolding, which means their chance might actually be real. One of the heroes leans in and swears that out of every adventurer, there's just one person who can pull off something this impossible. The princess fires them up to move right now, insisting that if winning is within reach, they've got to grab this moment before it slips away. That bearded old grandpa in a hat is reportedly none other than Court Archmage Lawrence in. He fires off a third-tier lightning spell, then leans in like, "So, what was that?" The mage snaps that magic is already creeping into the dream turtle's dreams. And she's telling everyone her magic defense isn't just failing anymore, it's flipping on her, doubling the damage every magical attack deals. The wizard keeps saying he's never, ever seen anything like this in his life, and then admits it's all true. Learn this, study your whole life. And just as he says that, he spots a magical distress signal screaming for help. The protagonist snaps that someone has to come for his father. Noah finally admits he meant to cut his father out of his life for good, but then he hesitates, because he can't wrap his head around how a memory wipe could have failed to shut off on his father. The girl insists her father was crushed by how he treated him, so sorry that he even apologized, then admits she couldn't catch every word, and just as she starts to explain, she stops the story before it can finish. The boy blurts out that as his father's memory was being wiped away, flashes of those same memories burst through. Then he snaps that he can't just forgive his father for everything he did. The boy insists her dad didn't just love her mom, he loved her with his whole heart. One character bluntly admits he judged the other guy as cold and insensitive until the truth hits, and he finally realizes things weren't what he thought at all. The hero breaks down the moment everything went wrong. His magical power sputtered out, yet he still got saved in the nick of time, and then he admits straight up that without his father's help, he might have ended up in real danger. Noah decides to sit down with his dad and lay out exactly how this battle is going to end. The young man steps in to help Alexia with her wounds, but she swears she's fine, while everyone can tell it's getting dangerous, so he snaps, "Sit down," and won't take no for an answer. The monster can't believe Noah managed to smash through the dream turtle's tricky defenses. One soldier bellows Fafnir, and another knight erupts, roaring at the commander that danger is coming, and if they push too far, they'll get him hurt. They say the girl is S-rank legend, Mesa, the aloof one, and that the wolf is the beast king Fenrir. The moment the monster realizes Fafnir is being controlled by someone else, his rage flares, like he's suddenly been turned into someone's pet. Miss A can't help wondering if she's the only one who's got control over an S-rank monster, and then the real question hits, who's the creature's master? The adventurer can't believe a rampaging dragon actually bowed its head to someone, and he quizzes Fenrir about who that guy is. Then the Beast King admits, "Yeah, I've battled that dragon plenty of times before." The dragon spots a familiar creature and jolts in shock, blurting out, "Wait, is that the ice dog?" The wolf blurts out that it's been forever and laughs, because now he can freeze the enemy for fun. Someone yells for everyone to lock in on the fight with the dream turtle right now, and stay sharp, no distractions. The warriors insist that as long as there's still a shot, they have to slam the enemy with everything they've got, because his defense has already taken a serious hit. Magical deterrents are reportedly being prepped to strike. They spot the dream turtle frozen in place, and the girl hisses that they're cutting the bonds, one after another. People swear that even a tiny stumble from the enemy counts as a huge win. The hero weakly admits, even the tiniest hit matters, because that's how I win. The knights rally everyone to link up and throw everything they've got into the fight, pushing the attack onward against the dream turtle. Before the kingdom of Razd was even founded, the girl said, right near where they stood now, there once was a massive city-state. Yuna tells you the ancient city was called Karkisha, and it was home to a long-lost people known as the Rune tribe. The adventurer tells you that even today, you can still stumble on ruined buildings around here, leftovers from the ancient city of Kirksis. The heroine points out the legendary Heavenly Tower, so clear from the royal capital, and it towers into the sky like it's on another level entirely. As the operation hits its final stretch, the soldiers get the order to fall back, then the dream turtle smashes through the last line of defense. The dragon gasps at the retreat order, then snaps back that nobody read the strategy manual properly, right? He thanks Alexia for giving him the green light to pull the plan off. The princess grabs the moment and confirms they've got to retreat. People say that if he and Noah hadn't stormed into the ancient ruins, they never would have crossed paths with Alexia. Yuna's convinced the kingdom of Razd was doomed the moment that monstrous giant showed up. There's no way it could have survived something like that. And she adds, almost like a warning, that every move has a consequence tied to what came before. The girl points out that even the dream turtle isn't safe from a drop like that, especially now that its defenses are already crumbling. Even with everything stacked against him, the dragon refuses to back down, pushing forward in the fight and declaring he's ready to shoulder even more. The heroines gasp and shout Fafnir's name in pure shock. The dragon leans in, whispers a final goodbye to the dream turtle, and lets the moment slip away. And just like that, he realizes he's hit the wall, his body gives out, and he falls. The report hits, the enemy has stopped moving completely. The monster spits out disappointment and rage, snarling, "Who would have guessed we'd bring down the Sky Tower?" Then admits he burned tons of time resurrecting it, only for it to turn out to be a total, pointless waste. He admits Noah's attack landed an incurable wound on him, and he can't believe the horror of it, thinking there's no way everything ends this tragically. The enemy lines in and demands the dream turtle hand over his body. The heroes can't believe it when the creature jolts back to life and starts moving again. The princess slams down her decision and orders every troop to retreat. She's done with the kingdom's capital, and they're getting out of it now. When he spots the princess, another character blurts out in shock. Then the girl snaps back that fighting on will only tip everything into disaster. The young lady warns that it won't be just them. Every resident will pay the price for this invasion too, and she demands everyone evacuate as far from the capital as they possibly can. Misei spots the danger escalating fast, and they start weighing how to defend the elf village before it all falls apart. Then someone whispers the terrifying truth. This monster feels like it's already crowned as a god or demon lord. The enemy cackles, saying the world is starting to choke on human darkness. He swears this is exactly the goal he's been burning to reach. Noah spots the spirit of darkness teaming up with the dream turtle, and his jaw drops. He's sure he should have dealt with it by smashing its shell. The protagonist grabs the Book of Peace and unleashes it to slam the enemy's power into the dirt. They realize the object isn't anywhere to be found, and shock slams into them, followed by serious worry. The girl points out that the power being used is none other than the king of the Rune tribe. She tells him straight up, "You can't use it anymore, you don't have access," and adds that since he doesn't even belong to the tribe, his choices are basically locked down. Then he blurts out, "So what do I do?" The young man leans in and asks Alexia how he can boost his powers, and Alexia just shakes her head. She doesn't know, because the truth is, him inheriting the power of the book in the first place is already nothing short of a miracle. The hero slams his decision down, there's no choice, and declares he'll act without the book, then tells her to stay right where she is. The adventurer warns that if he doesn't go, the kingdom's capital gets wiped out, and Alexia jolts with shock, blurting that even he's got a limit too. He grabs her fear and reminds her of his promise to not die, and somehow that alone steadies her heart. She lets her feelings spill out, saying she can't bear to lose anyone else she loves, especially after what happened to her father. And she tells him she finally knows how to raise his access. After her father's death, Alexia stares at the empty throne of King of Kirkish and realizes one terrifying truth. As the princess of the Rune tribe, she's still not finishing the story. The girl's convinced that once they're married, the throne is going to end up in his hands. The father snaps his gaze to the girl and tells her that a kiss for the Rune tribe is a sacred vow, something only a truly dear person deserves. She leans in and begs Aldihima Noah to grant the Rune tribe eternal protection. The heroine blurts out an apology. It all hit so fast. then admits they just decided right there to get married. The protagonist blurts out in shock, eyes wide as he feels that overwhelming power, and can't stop himself from admiring it. The girl tells him now you can use the Book of Peace with zero limits, and she says it like it's simple. Ever since he became king of the Rin tribe, no more restrictions, just straight power. She's certain of it, this power will carry them straight to victory. The moment the warriors clock what's coming, they realize this is real danger. The monster weaponizes vector change to rip the rules apart. One of the knights unleashes a power that fully restores him to perfect health. An OEA pulls off an indirect spatial jump, and everyone else gets stuck in a completely different place. The creature spots its path shut by another character, and determination surges through it like a battle cry. The enemy scoffs that he never imagined the Book of Peace would get summoned again by someone outside the Rune tribe, then smiles and says it's even better like this. He'll take him down and claim the Book of Peace's power. He laughs in the hero's face, daring him to step into a fight. The guy snaps his hand forward, and a blade of light rips through the darkness to strike his enemy. Then you decide to change the quantity. Then unleashes multiplication, spawning a swarm of swords to strike, only for the opponent to call it an insanely entertaining, childish prank. A battle-scarred warrior jabs a finger at something, and every eye snaps to it like a trap just sprung. Above the dream turtle, a glowing object suddenly shows up, while it's mid-fight, leaving every adventurer staring in shock. The hero panics as the magic vanishes, but the monster sneers that the book won't save him. No mana means he can't do a single thing. Noah finally grasps it. This time, rewriting the world's rules with that book demands way more magical power than he ever needed before. He cracks open the book, and there it is, proof of how he restored magic power and smashed right through the so-called upper limit. He's out here claiming he can transform himself, like, right on the spot. The girl and her opponent gasp in shock when they see him crush the dream turtle completely. The young man brags that with the Book of Peace in his hands, the spirit of darkness can't win, then the creature snaps, so what are you? He doesn't buy the hero's confidence for a second. He remembers how he crushed the Rune King before, back when that monster still had the Book of Peace. The kingdom's capital is reportedly swallowed by darkness, and everyone's freaking out. The hero snaps to it. Those pages are already creeping darker, like something about to spill out of them. The enemy boasts that he's poured his darkness into the world's core, and now the book's power won't work for him anymore. The enemy snarls that darkness will swallow everyone whole, and the heroes snap into panic. The knight's voice cracks with despair, and he declares the whole situation hopeless. Noah flips the pages and bam, nothing but black stares back, and shock plus unease hits him like a sudden punch. He realizes the book's pages aren't just black at all. And then he spots tiny symbols all over them. His shock hits instantly. The protagonist finally admits he's never stumbled on anything this absurdly complex, his brain spinning, and complete confusion hits him like a truck. The boy finally cracks it. Those strange symbols in the Book of the World aren't random at all, and he can decipher them. The young man's mind flashes back to those brutal, lonely childhood days when he learned how to decipher, because that same talent is about to save him as he tries to make sense of the Book of the World. The monster basks in his triumph, roaring like the victory is already sealed. The hero drops into eerie silence, insisting that if he doesn't shut up, the darkness will come crashing down. He then claims his trump card, absolute protection, the dream turtle, while Noah snaps back that the whole world is just symbols, and the book's power lets him forge anything he can imagine. The enemy stalls in shock, baffled that he can still tap the book's power, until the hero snaps back that the dream turtle's shell swallows every single kind of magic power. Noah adds she fires the magical power right back. He basically says the dark spirit picked the wrong target, and if someone else had been in his place, the world would have already been under his control, just like he wanted. The creature reels from the man's move, stunned that anyone can stand up to him. The protagonist can't believe it. Everyone's different since the last battle, acting nothing like they used to, but the wild part is he hasn't changed a single bit. The adventurer lays it out like a spark in the dark. From the past to now, people inherited wisdom by devouring books, and their feelings got handed down generation after generation. So today, they stand right at the peak of everything that experience ever built. He leans in and thanks the Book of Peace for everything it's done to help and support him. Noah shuts the conversation down, declares it's over, and whips his gaze toward the spirit of darkness.